Hello and welcome to Sutro Sidetalk, episode 177. I'm your host, Kamran Shushtar, and with me is
James Sillig.
dude. We are here. It's a crazy week, and you're having a
Yeah.
crazy time. We're all having a crazy time. The Niners had a crazy time. Everyone's having a crazy time.
They got another Niners update.
Yeah, they beat the Buccaneers, which have Tom Brady. It was like a complete smash out. It was like 35-7 or something. I forget. It was something insane. And that's what their new rookie QB Purdy was doing a fantastic job. He was going all in. I forget who won defense. Brady threw like a couple interceptions, and one of the guys he like did a full interception after the game. He went up to Brady and asked him to sign a football. Because like Brady's been playing some of these dudes that were like kids when he started playing, which is insane. Now they're like playing with him. So yeah. Also, I think Brady should just retire, to be honest, because
Yeah, I'm like I don't follow football that well, and it feels like Brady has been around for like forever, to
it's
my
like
perspective.
like watching how not good this season has been for him, and this is the season he wasn't supposed to come back for. Like,
Oh
dude,
yeah,
you
I
gave up
forgot he
your marriage for
retired.
this? Like, dude, what are you doing? It was
I
horrible.
remember like I think I was in the gym or something, and I saw that on the news, like on the TV, and I was just like, "Why? I thought you retired."
Dude, he was looking at so they have replay tablets and stuff, and he was looking at the tablet. It shows him, and it just shows him like like it was like a toss drop. He just toss drops it on the ground, and one of the other players looks at him like, "Oh," he just looks so frustrated. And I'm like, "You gave up your marriage for this. Why would you
Oh
do that?"
no.
Oh my god, it was crazy, but yeah, um, yeah, it's a little football thing. Otherwise, Suture Side Talk. We talk what we've been playing, what we've been watching. How are you doing? I know, things are.
I've been better. I mean, I am better now. Like, it finally happened. I finally got COVID. And I didn't die,
You were
thankfully.
the last holdout, man. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, thankfully my dad has not gotten it yet, at least that we know of. But yeah, no, like Chris got it, or at least he tested positive last week Monday, and we were all like, "Oh shit." Well, okay, at least his room is like down in the basement, so he's like at least he can easily quarantine from everyone. And then I tested
We
positive
just
two
keep
days
them
later.
downstairs.
Well, it's just like that's just been his room for like
Yeah, no,
forever.
I know.
It's bigger than my room, and he has his own bathroom too.
Which
But
is very
like,
well. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, so like I basically had like a decent fever. It wasn't like the worst I've ever had, thankfully, because like I take one of my meds that I take is an immune suppressant. So that's one of the reasons why I've been so worried this entire pandemic of like if I ever get COVID, like I have no idea how I'm gonna react to it. I think I got really lucky that I just happened to get the updated COVID booster like literally a few weeks ago. So my immune response was about as like prepared as it was ever gonna be.
Hmm.
So I got over most of my symptoms in like a day and a half ish. I had like one night where I had a fever and like a wicked headache and sinus pressure so bad that my teeth hurt. So I was telling you before the show that like when because I couldn't focus on anything and I couldn't sleep because I was just in so much discomfort, I put on one of my guilty pleasure shows, Ancient Aliens. I don't know what it is about that show. It's like so goofy and stupid, but the fact that the people on it like truly seem to believe that humans couldn't have ever achieved anything in our history if aliens had like just shown us how to do this shit, but we just don't have evidence of it. Uh, but anyway, at least my fever broke in like a day, and I was pretty much back to normal within like a couple days. The only like lingering symptoms that I've had are like the sniffles and like some brain fog, but that's clearing up. I'm hoping to be able to go to work like by the end of the week, if not like next week.
Hmm.
But I don't know. I'm getting a little bit, I don't know, crazy stuck in my room for the most part. Like I've gone on like a couple walks just around the neighborhood, just away from people, not going anywhere, but with like a mask on. But I literally like I finished Callisto Protocol pretty fast. Actually, I finished that like before I tested positive. So I don't know. I've just been watching a bunch of shows. Like I finished 1899, and I finished the new Pokemon game. So now I can move on to
That's how you
High on
finished it. I
Life.
was like, how the hell did I finish that game already? Jesus.
Yeah, no, I wanted to just
Okay.
finish it because I was like, I want to get onto the Destiny season, and then I finished Pokemon. And Chris was like, "Hey, you can preload the High on Life now. It comes out in a couple days." And it was like, "Oh no, it
Yeah, dude.
never
I mean,
ends."
now that for me, I gotta go. I want to play High on Life, but I'm also like, all right, I'm gonna play Callisto Protocol first, and I'm like, I'll try to do High on Life on my PC, but also because it's on PC Game Pass, right? I think.
Yeah, that's how I'm
Okay.
playing it.
All right. So yeah, I'll probably double that up with like Destiny and Hunt because the Hunt event starts later this week. That's like a 2-month event, and then Destiny's Dawning just started. Plus, the new season just started too, and I'm just like, bro, what the? And I start playing Warzone, and I'm like, oh fuck,
Mhm.
like it's too much shit. But it's insane. It's like, and the funny thing is too, it's like you're jumping on like at the end of the night, and you're just like, fuck, like there's barely any time to do it as is. It's
Yeah,
crazy. Um, at least you're getting that done. You're just like you get this extra little free time to just kind of knock this shit out, which is kind of cool. But
yeah. Like I'm trying to do a little bit of work while I can, but it is like weirdly hard for me to focus right now,
understandable.
and I just keep
Uh,
forgetting shit. It's so annoying. Like last night I was playing High on Life. I was just like, this game is hilarious, but I keep forgetting where I need to go and where I've been.
you're like straight up just like 5 minutes later, like of going through an area. I have no recollection of this
No, I
place. And
literally was about to say it's
you're
like
just like
that.
Gandalf.
It's the Gandalf thing over and over. It's like I have no recollection of this place,
God.
or no
Uh,
memory of this place.
no memory. Yeah, no memory of
Yeah.
this. It's like, dude, that was me when I went up to. I stopped playing Fallout 4 and I tried to go back for. I was playing Far Harbor and then I went back to it and I'm like, where was I in Far Harbor? And I looked around and I'm like, dude, I have no memory of this whatsoever. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna stop playing this game. And I planned on like playing it again on PC eventually anyway, because I was playing on like PS4. And I wanted to get on PC for the mods. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just wait till I do that again and just play it there and I'll do the DLC that I missed. It's like the only Fallout game, I guess, if you count 76 and 2 Fallout games that I didn't finish. Because I actually didn't even touch 76. I did like a beta for a second.
Yeah, I never bothered.
But this episode, sorry guys, this episode, we are doing a quick little thing on the Game Awards. Okay, not quick. Well, it'll be quick compared to other things normally. But it'll be a short thing on the Game Awards, just like a few specific trailers, not all the trailers, just like a handful of trailers and a couple things about the Game Awards itself that were just hilariously stand out that we'll talk about briefly. And then we've got our big game to talk about, which is probably honestly the most, it's the biggest game of the year. And it is God of
Except it's
War
not Game of the
Ragnarok.
Year.
Huh?
Except it's not Game of the Year, apparently.
Well, not for the Game Awards. It might be for other
Yeah,
stuff, but also it's, we didn't say our personal game of the year. Tune
I
in
know, I know.
like first week of January when we'll tell you guys our game of the year games and
Yeah,
whatnot. But yeah, we're gonna talk all God of War Ragnarok here, including spoilers. But we'll save all the like the story character stuff for like the end portion of it, which will take probably the longest amount of time. But we'll start with like gameplay, combat, audio stuff, visual stuff, art and whatnot, music and all that. So we'll definitely tackle that, then do like story, plot, characters and all that fun stuff. And of course, if you guys want to write in, you can at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. Send us feedback, comments, or if you want to send us questions on the show for us to read, you can. I will say now, next week, there is a very high chance we'll be doing our episode on the Callisto Protocol. So we'll knock that out just because James already beat it and he said it's pretty short. So I'm going to see if I can knock it
yeah.
out before we record next. And then the week after, we've got Avatar: The Way of Water. So we've got pretty much the closing out of the year already figured out. And yeah, send us questions on those, what your thoughts are on them, and anything you guys want us to talk about on them for sure, whether it's Callisto Protocol or Avatar, or the end of the episode where we're going to talk everything and review top anime, games, movies, television, and what we're looking forward to for 2023. In fact, guys, tell us what you're looking forward to 2023. Right in for that. Honestly, that's probably the best thing. Just let us know for that, and we could definitely start talking about that because that'd be fun.
Speaking of
Otherwise,
anime, I finally watched the rest of Stone Ocean, JoJo's
oh nice.
Bizarre Adventure on Netflix because I had the time. It was great.
Good to hear. Good to hear. All right. Let's get right into the Game Awards. So like I want to say we're gonna talk about like 5 trailers. The first one being Star Wars Jedi Survivor. We saw it with a March like 17th release date, which is actually funny because everyone's like, "Oh, Cameron Kennedy." He's like, or Cameron Monaghan. That's his name, right?
Yeah.
Uh, he's got the red hair and everything, so he looks kind of Irish. And everyone's like, "Oh, they're releasing it on St. Patty's Day for him. That's great."
I didn't even notice that.
But yeah, it's coming out St. Patty's Day, so it's pretty soon. I really appreciate that they actually took their time to hold off on announcing it because they kind of did it Fallout 4 style, where they're like, "Oh, Jedi Survivor coming out soon," and we just announced it, and it comes out like in like 4 months or 5 months, I guess, compared to the first trailer we got
Yeah,
for
we've
it.
seen like one trailer so far, and then this one.
Yeah, so now we got 2 trailers out, and it looks really fun. The
Yeah.
combat looks improved. There's a lot more variety and potential like combo stuff where like another character will show up and like jump over your back, shoot someone with a blaster while you're still doing your stuff with your lightsaber. And I'm like, oh, that looks pretty good.
Yeah. It
Uh,
basically looks like they took every like mechanic from the first game and just like added onto it and made it better so
yeah,
far.
and we saw Seer for a second.
Yeah, she's all covered in tattoos again.
Yeah, and dude, she had like a full on look. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, I was like,
Uh,
holy shit, she go Jedi again?
Yeah, I think she shaved her head too and everything. So it's really
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what she's doing. We had a couple new characters or 3 new characters. One was like this big brawny dude, this pale white skinned guy that who knows who he is, but he
He
seems
looks
like he'll
very
be the
Sith to me, but we'll
yeah,
see.
primary antagonist energy for this episode for this game.
I don't know. It looks like Cal like needed him,
Okay.
but
Oh, that's true. Maybe it was that other dude that he was fighting in the first trailer. Is like business. Remember we were talking, he looked like the Sith accountant or something?
I totally
Like
forgot. I should watch that trailer again.
yeah, there's like Sith accountant man, but uh, I guess that makes more sense then. We didn't get to see what happened. I forget what his name is. Our pilot, uh,
Yeah,
the little furry guy, and
I like
then
that guy. He was like my favorite character in the first one.
him and Marin. I'm like, where's Marin? So it's definitely gonna be a thing where I bet they're gonna be like, yo, you're probably wondering where Marin is. We're gonna tell you like halfway through the game and be like, fuck, you're doing it again. But we see another new character that's like this Han Solo type dude with a blaster. It should be interesting, and it looked like they're on like Coruscant or some big urban city, so it should be exciting. There's a Wampa, so I'm pretty pumped. Uh, that's coming in March. Really looking forward to it. We'll talk probably a little bit more about it in our 2022 review episode when we're talking about stuff we're looking forward to. And then we have the Hades 2 trailer, which James, if you want to talk, I never played Hades 1, and I watched that and went, oh yeah, I should play Hades 1 eventually.
No, you definitely should play Hades 1. I mean, that watching that trailer made me start playing it again. Like I was playing it on my PC a little while ago, before this always happens. Like some game came out and I stopped playing it. Or I might have been sorry, I went back to Destiny or something, but it is such a well done game. I mean, the art style is really cool. Like just the amount of voice lines for this game, like there's so many, like it's a roguelike, and one of the random things that they do is like all the gods of Olympus will give you like boons and like upgrades to try to help you along each run, and they will have voice lines for specific gods for like if you saw or have like a boon from another god that you picked up before them, and like excuse me, like they'll, it's just there's so much attention to like how many ways things could have gone, and they'll still have like voice lines for those like options. I guess that I'm not really making a lot of sense here, but
Nope.
it's just it's also just the voice, like the actors
Mhm.
are like the acting in this game is like so well done too. It just feels like such a quality game, and it's also just really fun to play. And there's like a bunch of different weapons you can use, and it incentivizes you in different ways to use each weapon for different runs just to like experiment and get more resources and stuff. And like every good roguelike, it like you can die and just like fail an entire run and have to start again, but it does a good job of making it so that there are ways to get like a little bits of permanent progress, so it doesn't feel like you're constantly losing. and it's just it is. I can see why when it came out, it was a bunch of people's game of the year, and that's why I'm. This is the trailer for Hades 2 is the probably I got most hyped from that trailer than any of the other trailers, which is
Uh,
insane because Death Stranding 2 was
yeah,
announced.
and that was Persephone, right? I assume on the cover.
I don't I don't know. Ooh,
Okay.
that's a good idea.
So next
Because like I
one.
assumed that was like I'm forgetting the name of the main character. It's you don't play as Hades, you're his son, and I am Zagreus. I think his name is
Oh, then you
Zagreus.
probably that might not be Persephone then. Okay.
Yeah, like you find out.
You don't have
I
to.
don't know.
It's
I don't
okay.
want to spoil
That's
anything
fine.
for
Don't
you.
worry about it. I don't
Yeah.
really need to know.
But yeah,
Uh,
I'm just excited for more Hades, even though I haven't
yeah.
finished Hades.
Next game, Death Stranding 2 was revealed, and Kojima, we knew he was working on something. He's been showing all these little teasers
A few
with
things.
actresses, and he's like, "Who, when, how, where am I?" And I'm like, "Fuck, is he
Yeah,
talking about?" I'm
what
so
for?
yeah,
Huh?
and you're like, "What is he talking about?" And then when you say that, you're also like, "I can't wait." Whatever the fuck it is, and it looks
Yeah,
like
I'm one of
it's
his fans that's just like, I don't care if it has Kojima's hands on it. I will play it.
yeah, and the mystery stuff he always does with it just makes you more interested. Like he's the only person who's allowed to like send the most ridiculous things, and you just go like, "Sounds great. I don't know what it means, but I'm excited for it."
Yeah.
It showed everyone another thing of, oh, that's right, I need to play this other game before the second game comes out. Oh shit. Though I'm assuming for this one, I think I have plenty of time. I doubt this comes out
Yeah.
anytime soon. If it does, I'd say the soonest are probably 2024. Um, just because
That's a good
2023
bet.
we have Spider-Man 2, so I don't think it'll come because obviously it's a PS5 game and it takes place after the first
Did
one.
they say it
Everyone's
was
old,
specifically a PS5 game?
I assume. I hope it's not on
Hmm.
PS4. I hate to say it, but I hope it is not on PS4. I'm going to say it right now. I want it to be PS5 exclusive, and then release on PC eventually. But I don't want
Yeah.
it on PS4. I don't want to be held back. Nor should we have to give us a reason why we got a PS5. Like keep giving us games that are
Yeah,
only
it
on
is getting
PS4.
really frustrating that like every game that I am like enjoying, even God of War, I'm like, I can see ways that if they had done this natively on PS5, it might have done a little bit better.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about it.
So yeah, everything looks cool. I'm excited for it whenever it comes out. Like I said, I think after the current new games coming out right now, when I'm done with all of them this year, I'm going to be moving on to Death Stranding. Like that's the first game I'm touching. Then we've got was it the fourth game, Horizon Burning Burning Shores, right? That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Horizon Forbidden West 2 Burning Shores, so expansion for Horizon, and it shows Hollywood. She's going down to Aloy's going
We're
from
going to LA.
yeah, where she's going from San Francisco to LA, and you see like the Hollywood sign, and you see one of the I forget what they were called, but like the world destroying machines, the massive, massive one, like the one that you never actually fight, because they're
Oh,
always
yeah,
like
I totally forget.
they're so massive that in the first and second game you just see like frozen or just like destroyed ones. They're like no longer
Yeah.
functioning,
But
and
they're like so massive that they almost look like they're just like a part of the environment.
yeah, it looks like you're fighting one in this one, so that's going to be insane is all hell, especially because we know like what's coming. What was the thing that was coming back again? The what the future people were fleeing from in the space.
Oh, uh, the other humans that like fled and like never like
No, but they were fleeing from whatever destroyed their planet.
oh, right.
That's what I'm saying.
The AI copies of them that I
Yeah,
forget
okay,
what they
that's
were
what it
called.
was. Yeah. So that's coming. That's gonna be the enemy in the third game. So this is like, that's gonna be the craziest thing, and it's cool to have like, oh, well, let's see what the strongest thing on this planet is. Let's finally tackle that, and it's gonna be fun seeing her fight this insane thing. Um, that's coming in April,
I
and that
liked
also
that a
reminded
bunch of
me
the
to
landscape looked like it was literally on fire for some reason.
yeah. So that's gonna be really cool,
Yeah.
and if it's anything like Frozen Wilds, which is really fun, I'm excited for this It was all
Yeah.
hell. And it also reminds me I should really play Iki Island, that expansion for Ghost of Tsushima. I've already kissed off
Yeah.
playing the New Game Plus for that because no time. But I'm at least like, all right, get back, go play Iki Island and get that done hopefully soon. And then finally, what everyone's wanted for so long,
Sort of.
and yeah, or at least people that were born around the time to know about it still at this point. A lot of people, they're just like grow up and they're like, huh? Armored Core 6 from Software is going to come out, and it's looking good. It's exciting. You know, it's like, oh, what are you guys doing after Elden Ring? Oh, we're going back to mechs after all these years. Like, they think about it.
Yeah.
It's like they went through Demon Souls, Dark Souls, Sekiro, Bloodborne, Elden Ring, and we're counting like 3 Dark Souls. And then they're finally like, all right, back to mechs. Like, it took like, what is that? 9 games? 10 games?
Well, I'd have to
No,
count,
that's
but
like 7
like
games. Sorry, 7 games. I'm going
what's
way too
interesting though
overboard.
is that like there were rumors like what feels like a year ago now of another Armored Core game, but that it was going to be a Souls type. But it sounds like this one is just going to be a straight up regular
I think that was just a
Armored Core
rumor.
game.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
then yeah, now it definitely was just a rumor. Like it was true that there was an Armored Core game being made, just not a Souls type one, which would
yeah.
have been an interesting idea.
But it's,
But
everyone just wants Armored Core. Just give them
yeah,
Armored Core.
it's
Like,
interesting because like I usually love anything that involves mechs or stuff like that, but I've never been able to get into the Armored Core games. I don't know why. Like maybe I'll give this one a shot when it
I
comes
think
out. We'll see.
I think the best way someone said it was, I'm really looking forward to this Armored Core as a longtime Armored Core fan who's never played any Armored Core before. And I was like, hey, that's me.
That
So
feels
like,
very true.
yeah, I'm like, I'll buy this for sure, especially just because I don't have the like, I'm still trying to get into Souls games. I have Bloodborne and Demon Souls remake, and I'm gonna get to them eventually. But like, this is definitely something where I feel like I'm not as like put off by, of like difficulty and the time sink you have to put into it and the patience you have to put into it. And I'm like, cool, I could just play a mech game. Like, that sounds good to
Yeah.
me. So
Nah, like the one Armored Core game I do remember playing was like a PSP game, and it was extremely technical with like very minute details of how to build your mech and like different parts adding like 1% to like a different category. And it's just like it was so technical and it took so much time to put together a mech that I was like, this is just math and this isn't fun.
yeah. Otherwise, and we don't know when that one's coming either, I don't believe. But
Yeah.
otherwise, those were like the big trailers. There were a lot of other trailers, but these were like the ones of interest to us, really. And then the Game Awards themselves were cool. We don't really need to talk about how it went, but there were just a couple things that stood out for the Game Awards.
I think
One,
overall I thought it was a good, well put together show though.
yeah, I think there was less ads this time than last time,
Yeah.
so that was
It
kind of
definitely felt
enjoyable.
like I liked that they focused more on the awards, it seems, for
Yeah,
this. Yeah.
and I feel like now it'll be harder to go in next year if you want to go in as the public, but or they'll have heightened security, one of the two.
Yeah.
One thing was the orchestra that was playing all the music was, they always do a good job every year, but this year, and sometimes they'll get like special guest musicians to jump on with them too. But this year there was a dude in the audience. They call him the flute man. Let me see if I can actually find him real fast. But uh, this dude, you're watching them go through. It was during the game award, like the game of the year nominees, and when they do it, they go through every game. They go, and the nominees are, and they have the orchestra play like a portion of like the main theme from that game.
Yeah. They did like a medley of all the different soundtracks from the different games, which I very impressive, I thought. Just like going from very different music types very quickly. And
His
yeah,
name
that flute
was
guy was
Pedro Eustache, or yeah.
yeah, he was very enthusiastic.
What was crazy was he was going like full on hard on the instruments he was playing, but every time it switched to a different game, you look at his instrument and it's a completely different instrument, and you're like, how many
I didn't even
fucking
notice that.
yeah, no, he switched to so many different wind
Yeah, dude.
instruments. It was insane, like how many different ones he kept like switching off to. I was like, how did he do that? How did he do this? And I cracked up because I made a joke.
He's a
to
one-man orchestra.
some of my friends when we were watching it together. We were doing like a group watch, and I said, "Dude, you know what's crazy? His hair was flat before you start playing. it's fucking up." And he like went full Saiyan. And this dude was great though. He's such a that dude got so many Twitter followers after that, and he just looked so into it. He loved what he was doing, and he fired up everyone. Like everyone just got he got people excited because he looked excited and played like he was excited. That was great.
Yeah, he did an amazing job.
And then pretty much right after that, we have this kid walk up from a separate aisle and like go up with the From Software guys. And after Miyazaki finishes talking, this kid comes and he's like, "I'd like to nominate my reformed rabbi, Bill Clinton." And then he just gets cut off, and everyone's like, "What the fuck?" And like, I didn't even realize it because we just see him go up with them, and I'm just like, "Oh, I guess he's just some kid on the dev team." I kept joking like, "Yeah, it's Miyazaki's apprentice or something." And one of my friends, she's just like, "Did you guys notice that?" And we're like, "Notice what?" She's like, "He got up from a different like part of the crowd. He wasn't with them." And like it didn't even dawn on us until it happened, and it was funny because like
for me, I was like, okay, show's wrapping up. I like wasn't really paying so much attention, so I completely missed what he even said. I saw that he was like saying something, and then like later on Twitter, I was like, I saw everyone going like, "What the fuck was that?" Bill Clinton, and I was like, why are people talking about Bill Clinton in the Game Awards? What the hell? Was he in the audience?
It was so so like just to make it long story short, it spawned so many memes of just like Elden Ring, Bill Clinton, like reformed rabbi, and like the Elden Ring font and all this shit. It was fucking hilarious. There was one of like, Vince McMahon when he's like going after someone and like, where is he? And it shows him like running down the hall to go beat somebody up. Someone was like, this is Jeff Keighley. Right after when they walk off the stage behind the scenes, that was him going like, where is he? to go beat the shit out of him. But he's like
he tweeted afterward that kid got arrested.
Yeah, he got arrested. Jason Schreier even had him on an interview really fast.
Really?
And said the kid stayed in character. Like whatever kind of character he's trying to be.
Was that accent not real?
I don't know. I just know that he was just saying like I think that was real accent, but he's saying like whatever, because he's like, why'd you do that? What were you trying to say? And
apparently I just love my rabbi.
He was saying in like character where he wasn't taking it seriously at all. And it was just like, okay, that was weird. And from what it sounds like, I could be completely wrong. This is just like rumor, like not even rumor, but I could be wrong with the source or something. But it sounded like this dude was like not QAnon, but like some of those like conspiracy kids or something.
Yeah, I've heard
so I wouldn't be surprised with that, like reformed rabbi Bill Clinton. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I've heard this is not the first time he's like trolled like a show or something like that.
Yeah, so it was weird, but it was also just kind of like, okay, whatever. We enjoyed the Game Awards, and
I didn't win a Steam Deck either.
Yeah, I didn't win a fucking Steam Deck, but I do, because they said Summer Game Fest you can go in person now, and I'm kind of tempted to see if I could afford it at that point, and if I have time to take to go, I'd be like, yes. Let me just go down to LA to the Game Awards. That sounds fun.
That would be cool.
Yeah, right. Otherwise, that's everything from the Game Awards. Time to get into our main feature, which took a bit more time than I thought. Shit. Oh, well. God of War Ragnarok, guys. So this game is a game we've all been waiting for a long time, or at least both of us and a very large number of other people.
Half a week off of work for this.
Yeah, so many friends I know took off, like you, Brandon, and some other people all were like, yeah, I'm taking time off for this game. And I'm just like, people on Twitter are doing it too. Like everyone's just like, yeah, this is the time off game. And honestly, I don't think I heard people say they're going to take time off since like Red Dead 2. I think that was like the last time. This is like the
first time I've actually requested time off for like anything. I keep I keep planning like trips I could do and shit like that, and just like not doing it.
I think some people plan time off around like Halo Infinite, but that, that's like saying I'm going to go on vacation and your vacation goes to shit. So that was a bad call on many people's part. I played Halo Infinite. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, that game was like fun for a week.
I guess to a little bit, not even like I was still even playing it, enjoying some of the gameplay. I'm like, wow, this is fucking stupid. Like as I was playing through it. But anyway,
I guess I was like blinded by like this grapple look is awesome. Wait, Cortana's dead.
Exactly. It was like all the stories fucking awful, but God of War, I guess starting off with the gameplay, it's pretty much the last game. It's the 2018 game's gameplay, just with like more combinations of attacks with the skill tree, especially. I thought it was really good the way they implemented that, where each, I guess like the way they implement the XP, your character XP. You can implement, you could take your XP and like go into the skill trees for all three of your weapons, as well as your relics. And you also could like go through with Atreus and Freya's weapons and their skill trees as well, and just keep utilizing that. And I think they did a good job giving you that, because there's like an excess amount, so you have more than enough to do.
Oh yeah, by the end of the game, I had like
extra
more XP than I even needed.
I wish I could convert it to other resources for like armor and weapons. I've been like, yo, could I turn this into divine ashes? That'd be great.
Dude, before the end of the game, I literally was just like, okay, I've platinumed it already, but I have a ton of resources. How much of my armor can I just like upgrade to the max before I run out of shit?
I did that way, like I want to say it was like a little bit after I beat the game, and I was doing that, and I was tempted to do it again, but it was straight up a thing of like, I was just happy to get through the game, and I'm like, cool, I got to go work out and do other stuff and go to a dinner, so I can't do it right now. And I'm like, now that I'm done with everything, I'm like, do I really want to just log on to like upgrade armor and then log off? Like,
yeah, if there was a trophy for like upgrading everything, I would.
I did get that,
but like, yeah,
that was just the relics though. That wasn't
yeah, no, I did everything to platinum it, and
we both platinum it, by the way.
I don't need to. Yeah,
so we've done literally everything you could possibly do. I 100% at all the realms, except for some reason Midgard registers as 98%, but everything's done. I think it's just a bug. I literally looked, I hovered over every single location like 3 times each, and looked, and it's like complete, and I'm like, what happened? But it's okay. I checked also, like, in case I missed anything, to see if I missed any like post-game story stuff, and I didn't, and I'm like, okay, cool. So I literally did every possible thing I could possibly do, for the most part. But yeah, I thought the combat was clean. I think the Leviathan axe, they did a really good job, like just reinforcing it, and Blades of Chaos, you know, they felt good. And
yeah, I liked that they added like the triangle button does shit like besides just call back the axe and stuff.
Yeah, they gave it more purpose now.
So for the axe, you could like charge it with like
frost,
ice. Yeah. And then for the I wasn't a huge fan of the blades.
I didn't.
Like,
it took
you
too
had to
long.
like tap it rapidly, and it like
or hold down on it, and you just kind of even with spin until it like bursts into flame.
Yeah, even with the upgrades to like make that charge faster, or like if you do it right after doing another attack, it charges faster. It still didn't seem to go too quick, but like, did the axe have the thing where like if you throw it at an enemy and then you call it back and you hold the triangle button, it charges like almost immediately when it's in your hand? It's insane.
That's why I like the axe's chargeability, just because also it was one, it was incredibly fast, but also you could like do it before, let's say if I was fighting one of the berserkers or something, where you're about to get into the fight, but you don't want to start yet, but you want to be as prepared as possible. You make sure like Freya's got the right arrows,
a little bit of extra damage.
I frost it and then start the encounter, and still frost it after, so you're good to go and start your attack. Whereas like with the blades, you're kind of like charging, and then like you put it away, and then you come back and it's like it's not there anymore, and you're like, fuck, unless I did it wrong. But like that's what it felt like, and I'm like, oh, okay. The blades themselves I loved, because, well, one, when I'm using the axe, of course, they give you a reason to use certain weapons. Like, you're not just kind of like favoring one over the other all the time. There's enemies that are more like frost oriented, so you use the blades because they're fire, and you have more like hot enemies, like the magma, like the dudes that straight up come out of the ground all pissed off and shit.
Yeah.
And then you use the axe instead. So each one has their advantage to utilize. And then also with the spear, it works, I could be wrong, but it felt like it worked really well against like anyone that was Asgardian, or more of like the berserker, some of the berserkers and stuff like that, like all those types of enemies. The
ones with the like white bars over their health.
White bars, and I guess Bifrost oriented enemies. The spear worked really well against, just because also like those fucking Bifrost charges and like some of the berserkers when they'd attack, if they hit you with that Bifrost, they do like a crazy like Bifrost attack and it was a red one. You would basically your whole health bar would turn into a Bifrost. So if they just hit you once, then you're down to like 1% health. So instead of doing that, because the spear is ranged, before that attack could hit off, you could just throw the spear and fuck them up, and you're like, oh, thank God, I saved myself like half my fucking health,
Yeah.
which would really help out. Also, the fact that the axe has range, but I focused so much on using it for melee and then the Blades of Chaos for like multiple enemies, just because it has a lot more surrounding damage when you're just
Yeah.
swinging them around. Whereas the spear became my de facto like ranged weapon. Like if I was doing a lot of like kind of mixed like range melee, it replaced the axe in that area. And I was just using the spear instead to kind of like do a charge throw, a couple bashes, charge throw. All right, smash spear down, have those spears explode on that enemy. It worked really well, and I never thought I'd enjoy a spear in God of War. You never really think about it, especially like the history of God of War games. You're getting all these different weapons besides the blades, and they're like really cool, but you lose them all the time. And just like God of War 2018 to get Ragnarok, I think this is the first time we have two weapons.
I think he had a spear in Ghost of Sparta.
Oh, did he?
I vaguely remember
I
that,
don't remember. It's
but
okay.
it's been so long since I played that
In a
one.
PSP game, you had any big PSP Ghost of Sparta fans rejoiced when they saw a spear in Ragnarok.
Dude, funny thing, my avatar on the PlayStation Network that I've had for probably literally decades at this point, at least one, is a pre-order bonus for Ghost of Sparta, and it's like Kratos' face.
Mm. And
Yeah,
wait, Persephone was the enemy in Chains of Olympus, right?
yeah.
And then that's when his family shows up and she's like trying to use him against him. Okay, so Ghost of Sparta was with Demos then,
That
right?
was the one with Demos, which was
Okay.
like surprisingly good. It was so
Yeah.
good.
Ghost of Sparta was insanely good. God, they could have done a God of War beat again, those fools. Uh
Such a shame.
it's such a shame. The otherwise, like these weapons were so freaking good and they
I
felt
liked that each
amazing.
one was like definitely, like you were saying, each one has its specific uses, like taking out specific shields and stuff. But like for the most part, each weapon is equally viable for like all combat.
Yes.
Like each one has like a type of range. Even the blades have like a ranged move, but it's more for like pulling you towards enemies or pulling enemies towards you, which was extremely fun.
I think the blades were, at least when it came to boss fights for a lot of it, I think I started using blades a lot more. If it was not like story boss fights, but like any other boss fight, if it wasn't like any like specific to an element, I think I kept using the blades specifically, surely for the fact that the light blades attack happens so quickly. You could keep doing those attacks so often because the enemies would
Yeah.
keep moving, they keep teleporting. So if you're using a heavy attack or like the axe or something, the attacks are taking so long that it felt like it would actually take longer to fight the enemies compared to like using the blades just going like like nonstop. So at least that became my strategy until I want to say like the end game, like the Berserker King, fucking what was the Valkyrie's name?
Oh, I don't remember.
But
I
her,
remember it had like 3 letters in it.
it was like G something.
Yeah.
Goa,
Gear?
go.
Something like that.
Yeah, we'll look it up in a
Not
second.
Groa, that was another
No, Grow was the
character.
giant. Yeah, no, Grow was the
Yeah.
giant. But she, like her and him, I used the spear for, I want to say the full time, just because they kept transporting away so often that I realized I'm like, okay, normally I use the
Yeah.
blades, but in this case, I'm just gonna and especially for the sheer fact of like certain attacks, if you could stop their charge, it was worth it just to use the spear instead, just so you can knock their stuff out. Or they're like, oh, here's a fucking orb of flame or ice, and if it hits you, you either get burned or frozen. And I'd always hate where I'm like, oh, let me destroy it, and before I can do it, they'd attack me, and then it would hit me, and I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my god, dude, I raged. I won't lie. I like there was, I want to say, I think it was the triple berserker fight was the one I raged at because I spent an hour trying to beat it,
I
and
hated that one so much.
I was actually losing my mind. I'm like, dude, I want to fight someone in real life right now.
Dude, when I got up to the one that was like 2, I was like, that's not even fucking fair. I'm having a hard enough time in the ones that it's like 1. And then later I came across the one that was like against 3, and it was like I was losing my mind at the 2 people one. Like, what is wrong with these people?
Because the cool thing, at least about the 2 and 3, was in 2, one of them would be occupied by like Atreus or Freda, and
Yeah.
then Freya, and for the 3, you know, you have 2 of them that are kind of like twins or whatever.
Yeah, at least the two out of the 3 shared a life bar that made it a little bit less
All right,
frustrating.
question: which one did you kill first? The big one
I
or the
killed
2 small ones?
I think I killed the 2 small ones first
I couldn't
because
do
I
it.
was just like
The big
I
one
was like,
kept
I need wait.
for me it was the big one. I tried the 2 small ones for a little bit and it didn't work, so I went back to
Actually,
trying
you know
to
what?
kill
I
the
think
big
you're
one.
right. I think I tried the 2 small ones first, and the big guy kept fucking me up, and I was
Yep.
like, I have to kill the big guy first.
Because she would do the stupid, like, you'd even watch the animation and it looks so unnatural, where you're just like, you guys just did this for the fucking difficulty. You guys are horrible. You
I
watch her
couldn't
and she
believe they
does the
made something.
swings. Well, you're in that arena, and
Yeah,
let's say she's here, you're over there, and she'll swing and be like, swing, swing. And I'm like, how did you get across that entire area? Well, I ran away just to attack this one character, and I'm like, okay, so they really made it not viable at all unless you're playing like stupid low difficulty to take out the like twins first. So
yeah.
I
I
just was
couldn't
like,
believe
kill
they
the big
made these
one.
fights like harder than the Valkyrie fights, and I thought
Yeah,
those were like some of them were like frustratingly hard.
some of the Valkyrie fights were hard enough that I think I want to say for at least Sigrun and a couple others, I had to lower the difficulty a bit because I was just like, I'm dying here. Like I can't. I'd rather get it done and be happy to proceed than keep doing this and just get frustrated. And I'm like, I don't want to be that
Yeah,
frustrated where I'm like about to pull out my hair. I want to say for the King and the Valkyrie Queen in this one, I did lower. Like I did it a few times and I just knew better. And I'm like, all right, you spent an hour with those 3 characters you're trying to kill the triple berserkers. You know how long it's going to take even trying to do this, and you're not even guaranteed to do it in an hour. Let's just lower the difficulty by 1, and it still took like 30 to 45 minutes. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm glad I lowered the difficulty.
yeah.
Like, I can't even imagine how bad it would have been if I stayed it on the other one.
I somehow kept it on normal difficulty the whole time.
Oh, nice. Okay, congrats, man.
Like, it was hard.
That's what it was more for me, straight up. Like it was the time. Like I was like, oh, we'll record. Like I straight up delayed our recording 1 day to finish everything up, and the last 2 things I had was the Berserker King and the Valkyrie Queen. Like I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, okay. And the time was so busy, I couldn't afford the time to even like do it on normal, just because I would be one. I'd go to my grandpa's birthday, like, how are you doing? I'm angry. A game made me angry.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think if I
Happy
was on a time
102nd
crunch,
birthday, Grandpa.
if I was on a time crunch, I probably wouldn't have bought like I probably would have lowered the difficulty because especially for the Valkyrie Queen, I was just like, I fucking hate this. This is it was so frustrating.
It was a lot harder than the Muspelheim Crucible challenges
Oh
too.
yeah.
Those were okay. That was like good until it was not good. Where I enjoyed everything until it was like, hey, you know these 3 challenges, do them like 12 times to unlock the other ones. And I'm
Yeah,
like,
that was I
oh,
was not a fan. That was like I liked the idea if first of like, oh, depending on which order you do these challenges in, it unlocks like a higher challenge, which that was interesting. But then when it was like, do the same thing a bunch of times, but we're not going to give you new challenges to do, you just have to do the same ones again.
and your
I
reward's
was just
lower,
like,
I'm pretty sure. I couldn't
yeah,
remember.
and I was just like, why? That's just repetitive.
Yeah. So
Like,
I
and
think
I'm only doing it because you're telling me I have to.
that was like one of the only flaws I really saw in the game there was that along with just watching the animations of like a character trying to swipe you and then they just like gain half the map, and I'm like, okay, that just was stupid. But that this whole thing was annoying because yeah, it was repetitive to a point where I straight up went, I'm just gonna knock out all these challenges at once. And I did. I was doing all of them. I got like all the 3 done, and I did the first, I guess the first like final challenge of 6. And I'm like, cool. And I'm like, wait, how do I unlock the others? And I couldn't, I like didn't understand. So I looked it up, and it's like, oh yeah, you do all the different basically just combine each one in different order and everything else. I'm like, oh, okay, every 2. And I do a second one. And after that one, I'm just like, I'll come back to this later. I don't really want to keep
Yeah.
doing this right now. I like lost interest, and I made sure to do it before the story was like, I wasn't at the end of the story yet, and I'm like, oh, I should go back now before the story finishes, just so who knows, maybe this armor is going to be really useful in the final battle, and it was.
It was okay.
Yeah.
I used
Or
the Fatebreaker
oh no, I still use the
armor.
Fatebreaker. I used the Muspelheim chest in some of the Berserker fights. The ones that were
Mm,
too difficult, because I noticed its stats were a lot higher than, like, both of them at max upgrade for Fatebreaker and the Muspelheim armor. Muspelheim armor was still a lot higher stats. So I was like, okay, if I'm getting my ass kicked and my health is going down too fast, I'm going to put on this armor. And it did actually do a substantial difference for me in favor of my not dying. So that was good. I also like that they immediately like came with the game transmog.
yeah, except you had to get to like a certain level on your armor, but
Which
like,
is understandable if you're going to be using the armor a lot to like it makes it, I guess it makes sense in the fact that if you really like the armor just for the stats and not the look, if you're going for the stats, you're going to upgrade it. So
yeah.
and you're going to, if you're going to stick to that specific armor piece, but you like the looks of the others, it worked out really well. Like I'm glad they learned that from Horizon. Cuz Horizon did there was an update that did it. It wasn't in the game in the beginning, if I recall.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Because I remember the same thing. I was like, it was like the Redwood tribe for Horizon was the one I stuck with. And then for Kratos, I liked the Fatebreaker one, but I also like Tears armor, where it had like the 2 wolves on it, and it was like the blue gold. Those were really
Yeah.
cool. I like some of the others though. Berserker armor, the Raven armor were really dope too. God, there's so many
I
really
liked
good.
the Amber Hunter armor.
Oh, the dragon one too. That was a dope one. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The Amber armor was cool. The dragon armor was really dope. They made it honestly hard to decide. I'm like, what's my de facto Kratos armor? And I'm like, I guess the Fatebreaker one just story wise makes it an easier way to decide. So even though it took away all the armor, it was just like a fucking like shoulder patch, and I'm like, oh okay, it's just like
I
covering like
don't know.
part of his chest.
I liked that.
And no,
Like
it's
it
cool. It
showed
was
off
just
his like
funny that you go back down in like armor scale.
I like that the shoulder that's bare is specifically the one with like the red spiral, so it's like kind of showing off his like tattoos.
Um, Otherwise, yeah, the combat with the weapons was great. The bosses were interesting. They each one felt different. Like none of them felt the same. Fighting Thor, fighting Heimdall, fighting what's his face, Odin. Like each one felt different enough that like I didn't.
Angerboda's like aunt.
And Grabota's angry aunt. That one was just kind of funny. That
That
boss.
was weird.
I didn't even count that as a boss fight. I forgot.
It's cool though. You
Yeah,
destroy her
yeah, it was
pot.
really cool. It's like, what's wrong? All this one was crazy.
Yeah.
Don't let her eat these wolves, bro. And it's like, oh, okay.
She'll
Uh,
eat your soul.
yeah. God. Fuck you. Your parents, you're a piece of shit. You're
Yeah,
disappointed to
that's
your
so
parents.
mean.
I'm like, damn, why are you so mean? Uh, yeah. So all that combo was great. Bosses were fun. I liked your companion combat too. They amplified it a
Yeah.
lot, whether it's Atreus or Freya, because
And
Atreus.
like also Brock and Sindri. That was super cool.
Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot that. Yeah, Sentries was insane.
And Thor.
Yeah, Thor for a bit. So like you get all these and Thrud for a bit as well.
Dude, I love Thrud. She was great.
Yeah. But the thing was like you don't control any of their combat. Like it was cool watching Brock, Sindri, Thrud, and Thor, which are all your kind of companions, depending if you're Kratos or Atreus. I think honestly all of them are Atreus' companion, except for Brock, who is Kratos's for a little bit.
Yeah.
When they go to help
I love
Freya.
Brock just throws like random shit at people.
Yeah. I don't really care. Fuck it. But the two that are your like actual companions that you can level up are Atreus and Freya, and you level up like her sword, his bow. They both have bows, so they make it very much like they match in terms of like basically progression throughout the world, or worlds, I guess you could say, through the realms, because like, you
Yeah,
know,
they
each one
basically
of,
share abilities.
yeah, it's mainly their arrows that help you go through those, but in the combat, the arrows also have like specific purpose. Like I mainly used the sonic arrows just because it would stun enemies, but if you could do it in time, like you could do the it was harder if with a boss, but like if you could do the exploding, like the arrows with the that help with explosions,
The hex,
yeah,
I
the
think
hex
hex.
arrows.
Yeah.
You could pretty much, like, if it was high enough and it fully formed on an enemy, you could basically explode it on them, which is really
I,
cool.
I liked using the hex ability just because like I think it added that enemies gained more like they were more resistant to other status effects, so it made it easier to like light them on fire and like freeze them and shit.
Okay. Uh, those really cool. And then, you know, they have like superpowers to an extent where like Freya had the like the sword swipes where it would straight up just be like, oh, cool, like a wave of like blade strikes would just come up on an enemy, including Bifrost attack too a little bit,
Yeah.
which would really help out. And then Atreus's was like I had the crows, or like the
I liked the
little
crows.
birds.
I think I used the wolves for a while. Dude, I love playing as Atreus and you can just like straight up turn into a wolf.
Yeah, Atreus had his own gameplay, which is insane for this. Like he
Dude, that was the most surprising thing in the entire game for me when the camera like
shifts.
leaves the window and he's like, "Oh shit, Atreus was listening from outside the window the whole time." And I didn't even notice that like now the camera is like focusing on another person and then he just gets up and goes and the camera follows him and I was like, "Oh shit, we're not Kratos the whole time." Whoa.
Yeah, it traces, and they did such a good job with it because you're like, oh, is the combat the same? And it's like, no, you're definitely not as strong against enemies.
Dude, I laughed so hard when you get
Wait,
up
the
to
chest?
a chest, and I was like, "How does he open a chest?" And he's just like, he tries to punch it like Kratos, and he just like smashes his fist.
He's like, ah, oh, that hurt.
Yeah.
He
Then
just
he
is
just like
like,
whacks it
yeah,
with
he
his
uses
bow.
the bow to smash it open, and then
Uh,
otherwise, if it's the bigger chest, he'll pry it open with the bow, which is really funny. But yeah, it was hilarious the way he tries to pull it off, and God, they did such a good job of making him work as a character, because it did,
yeah,
like, you're like, oh yeah, Trace is an archer, and you have melee, and I'm like focusing on archery the whole time for the most part. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be an archer, and then if an enemy is too hard, then I'll turn into a wolf and start mauling him. But I got better into like, because they give him a lot of combos, especially when you're with Thor, because Thor just makes quick work of your enemies. But when you get into a lot of like the finishers, I just like run towards that usually with Atreus a lot more than I did with Kratos. Because Kratos, I guess sometimes I'd be in more of a rush with Kratos, whereas with Atreus, um, ironically enough, I felt like the finishers are more efficient than actual combat. Whereas
yeah,
Kratos, I'm just like, keep fucking beating everyone up at the same time. It's fine. Uh, but yeah, Atreus is really fun, and I think we'll talk a little bit more about that Atreus gameplay at the end of like kind of what comes next, because I think it was a preview transition of something more. But like I said, we'll talk
maybe.
about that later. Uh, I'm trying to think anything else with the game. Like, how'd you feel about just the enemies overall? Anything come of note? Like,
I thought that was a decent variety. I mean,
I thought they had a very good variety this time. Like they didn't even bring back a lot of the ones from last time. Like they're like, oh, here's two trolls. You just fight like two trolls this time compared to like
yeah, there was like a
eight.
few.
Yeah, there was like 8 to 10 last time. So it
I
was
like
definitely
that.
different.
Like the I saw like a few of them just like I like how they're like technically asleep, but they're like on a under a mystical sleep. So it's like the dwarves literally just like put them places and they're just like, yeah, they're serving out their prison sentence as like a statue.
It was great.
And like then you and like there's one like tablet or whatever that you find near one that says like, I guess you could wake them up early, like if you found an awakening stone. I don't know why you'd want to do that anyway. And then you find a artifact later that's just like it like when it makes a chime, it awakens something within the user, and it's just like, and I used it and it didn't do anything, and I was just like, huh, wait a minute, awaken, huh, and then yeah, you use it to wake up the trolls and fight them, and they're apparently not nearly as much of a problem as the dwarves make them out to be.
Yeah, it's crazy. I like that they include all of that too. It's just like
Yeah,
ridiculous how it works.
dude, there's so much side stuff to do, and like I guess before we get onto like the side quests and whatnot, like just to keep it on the enemies, there's even like mini bosses and stuff that you can find around the game to
Just out of
just like
nowhere.
fight.
It's just like out of the blue, like the huntress
Yeah, the Huntress was one of the cool
in
ones that like
Vanaheim in the crater. Yeah.
yeah, she just keeps like attacking you out of nowhere from time to time, and she like surprised me every time.
Yeah.
Because
I'm
I
like,
mean,
what
I
the
know it's
fuck?
like
Where'd you come from?
yeah, like it's what they like. It's meant to happen, but they did such a good job of just like I was not expecting it, and it just like every time I wasn't like looking for it or anything, I'd just be like wandering around, and it's just like, ah, shit, this freaking centaur's back.
Yeah. It was
But
her. There was every now and again the guardian, like the stone guardian, would just pop out, or
yeah,
like I saw one and I'm like, is that actually an enemy? And I went to attack it and it popped up and I'm like, oh shit, it worked.
and
Uh,
like the huge Drake things.
yes. Oh, are you talking about the dragons and
Well,
yeah,
not just like the dragons, but like the big ass like I don't know, like
4 foot, like I mean the one on all 4 feet.
yeah, like they were
I
I
mean those are
those
part
were
of the dragon
called
hunts. Yeah.
yeah, they were called Drakes, but like I was just like it was just yeah, there was so much variety in the combat that like I never got bored of just like fucking shit up. And like the elves fight so differently from like the just like anything else in the game. It's just like yeah, like everywhere you go, it literally each realm feels different.
Yeah, actually, that's a good segue. But I guess really fast, each enemy felt variety enough that none of the enemies felt similar, and each enemy like if one started feeling similar, it was then the closest similarities would be changed by like, oh, well, this one's more poison focused, or this one's weak to
Yeah.
frost or fire or something. And even then, they still didn't even feel similar. Like they did enough that it all felt different, and they utilized, yeah, getting into the realms, like having each realm host a completely different set of enemies practically each time. Not to mention, like they do such a good job in the environments, making all of them feel completely different. I loved like specifically like Vanaheim, even like Vanaheim in the crater area felt different from like Vanaheim in the jungle, like
Yeah. And then
vastly
like the
different.
Riverlands.
River, that's what I meant, the Riverlands and
And
versus
then
the
there's like a
crater and
literally a
jungle and
jungle
stuff.
next to the crater, and it's just like I was shocked at how big Vanaheim was and
Vanaheim
how
was
much
the
there was to
biggest thing in
do.
the whole game.
Yeah.
It's for sure like I think last game the biggest thing was probably Midgard because everything was open.
Yeah.
I want to say, because I feel like you'd go back to Midgard the most. Like you didn't really go back to Alfheim that much.
Yeah, for the longest time while I was playing God of War, I was wondering like which one did I prefer, like the map in the first one or the multiple maps in the second one? Because like it's cool that you go to like literally all the nine realms in the second one, but I liked the theme of like constantly coming back to the Lake of the Nine, and it's like slightly different like throughout the game. So there was like more and more to explore, but that did have the added effect of like
It takes
I would
longer.
yeah, it takes longer. It does often feel like you're retreading some of the same areas and trying to remember, like, okay, have I been here already? Like, I'm pretty sure I have, but have I seen everything that there is now? But it was like there was a lot less of that in Ragnarok, where I was just
Yeah,
like, oh, like each area is like a separate thing, and it's like very clear.
it makes it. I think it made everything easier for loading and everything else. So it felt faster.
Yeah.
This game definitely felt a lot bigger for sure.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
and I guess I'll get to it in a second, but like one thing I did notice though, the only thing that keeps you waiting is the freaking well, one is like besides like the lifts, like when you go off like on the sky lift or something, and it's like you're just kind of sitting there like, oh, I can put my controller down and like do something for a second, especially if there's no
Yeah.
dialogue anymore, when you're doing like lore cleanup and stuff. But the loading like your little like realm within the realm between realms, when you're loading into the next area and you're like going around in a circle and then the magical door appears finally, that area I figured it out and I'm like, why am I doing this? This is wasting my time running around. I could just put down the controller, let them talk, and then pick it up when the door fucking appears. There's literally no point in me running in circles.
Yeah.
And it took me like a little bit to realize it, but once I did, I was just like, God damn, like can't believe y'all did this to me.
Yeah, no, so I mentioned it a little bit earlier that like there are a few parts in this game where I could tell that this was done because it was a PS4 game as
Yep.
well as the PS5.
PS4 hold back the PS5.
And yeah, and they said like, "Oh no, we did like everything that we did in God of War, like, yeah, sure, we did it so that it could work on the PS4, but the PS4 is not holding back our vision.
Lies.
And yeah, and it's like, to be fair, the first game did have those realm, like the realm between realms, like travel, like walking along the branches of the Yggdrasil tree. Um, and yeah, they did fill in those loading times with talking, but I feel like on the PS5, like they could have had those same conversations just like
On
as
the
you're
way.
wandering other realms. And like I feel, and I am not a game developer, I'm not an engineer. I can't say this for certain, but the fact that the door, when you don't have a conversation, there are times when you walk into that door and then the door is just like already there, like
Yeah.
to leave. On PS5, they could have done without probably that entire in between thing, and they could have done it so that like you walk through the quick travel door and you're just immediately in another
I mean,
realm,
dude, look at
which would have been way more impressive.
easy example, Ratchet and Clank, Rift
Uh-huh.
Apart. It's just like that. Like all they had to do is that kind of thing. So you know for a fact that PS4 held it. I don't care what anyone says. PS4 held it back, guaranteed.
Also, the amount of times that you're like shimmying through rocks and shit, and it's just like it's fine once in a while, but it happened so many times that I was just like, do we really need this many of these like
Yeah, I was
peppered
okay
around
with it,
the
until like
like
it was my cleanup time, and I'm like
yeah.
just trying to get through stuff, and I'm like, fuck, I like have
Dude,
to
yeah, when I was trying to find the
go.
last ravens and I'm just like, if I walked all the way to the end of a like pathway and I like missed it, I would just be like, I don't want to go all the way through that again, because like there is no super it's not like other games where you can quick travel from wherever. You have to get to a quick travel point. So it can make backtracking and like cleaning up stuff like take longer than it might need to.
Yeah, very much so. I will say, at least in terms of like all the collectibles and everything else you're going through, it felt a lot more achievable this time. Ironically enough, I think the Ravens were a lot easier this time than the
I had
first
most of the
game.
ravens before I finished the game,
Yeah, I think I
like
was
without even
down
really
like
trying.
4 before, I had to go back and, like, do cleanup, but I was, like,
To be
nearly done.
fair, I did play the game mostly with headphones on, and
I
that
did
makes
too.
it makes it really easy to just like you hear the audio cue of the raven, and you're just like, okay, there's one around here somewhere.
I mean, that's honestly why you always want a good audio setup no matter what. Like, I'd say you
Yep.
guys, if you can't afford too much, like, just get really good headphones. Like, they don't even cost that much, just like $100 versus,
Yeah, like
like,
honestly, most of
or
the
like
time
a sound bar or something.
I do seem to prefer headphones just because like it's easier to get like a whole like
Yeah.
experience, it feels like.
I pretty much got I got the Pulse headset. I think it was for this or Horizon. I don't remember which. I think I got it in time for Horizon.
For like $100 headset, that's like surprisingly good.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it a lot. I still use like my Still Arctis for PC, but yeah, the PlayStation One just uses exclusively for PS5, and it's great. Uh, yeah, so collectibles were good. I thought it was fine in the amount that they did. The realms had great variety. Each one felt really good. Like each one felt different. Even within each realm, there were different environments. Like it was
Mhm.
even like sub portions of biomes, and then yeah, it was just like the loading stuff was annoying. Otherwise, I want to say the size of this game, dude. The size of this game is good. It's like a big size, but it's not stupid big. Like I had zero problem going through and collecting everything I needed to get. This game is an example of like this is a good sized open world game.
Yeah. Like there was a lot to do, but I didn't get to the point where I was like, okay, come on, wrap this shit up.
Yeah,
Like
like I
I
said, it
never
was
got to that
only
point.
the only time I ever felt impatient in terms of just like being impatient, not getting frustrated, but just impatient was just the Muspelheim, uh, redoing the Muspelheim challenges, and then just like the loading in the fucking realm between realms.
Yeah.
That's it. Everything else was like great. I really think this game did an amazing job. I think it improved everything from the previous game.
Hmm.
Uh, it felt easier, better. Everything felt just a lot more alive in it. Like there was I think also you see like a lot of it in the Vanaheim. You see all the wildlife showing up there that you don't really interact with, but it's all there, and you're just like, holy
Oh,
shit!
this
Like,
game is beautiful.
yeah. Which realm would you say was your favorite? Probably.
Hmm. I want to say probably Vanaheim.
Same. Okay. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Vanaheim for me too.
Just like it feels like the easy answer just because it's like it's so varied. Because like not only is there like the Riverlands, which is like so detailed and interesting, but then like you go to the crater and you have like the whole story of what Faye did there, and like the fact that like the mystery of like why is there another frozen lightning bolt here? I've never been here before. Like, how did that happen? And I was like guessing that it was a time travel thing. It's like maybe you haven't been here yet. And
That
it's
was
like,
the dude, the time travel shit in this for a specific character. I was
yeah.
like, oh,
And
it's
then
like there's
like
three of this character in this game.
then you find out that like Faye came here and like she's the reason why there's a crater here, and like a bunch of people died because of
And she
like her
fought
fight with
Thor.
Thor.
Yeah.
And like and that made that scene like when she's like talking to Kratos and he's just like, I don't want the boy to know me because he's better off not knowing me. And she just like she says like she like almost like she needed to hear it herself too, like we are not just our mistakes, because like clearly she does not feel proud of what she did in Vanaheim, because a
Yeah.
lot of innocent people died because she lost her cool and fought Thor.
Dude, it was,
And
it was a crazy fight too. Holy
yeah,
shit.
oh man.
Uh
But
yeah.
uh I mean, I also liked that Midgard was like you go back there too, but it's like different from the last game because it's Fimbulwinter is
Yeah.
happening. So it's like the lake is now frozen. So there's different shit to do there.
Dormansker is just like you see his scales sticking out. He's just like, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
frozen in this lake too. I'm just kind of
Yeah.
stuck.
He wakes up for a second to talk to Loki and he's just like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I'm still here.
How's it going? He said,
Uh,
well, he gives him advice. He's like the Ironwood, and he's like, Ironwood, what the fuck are you talking about? And then it
yeah.
comes to it makes sense later, not too long later too, which is really interesting.
Dude, I loved Angrboda.
Oh yeah, she was great. Uh, I'm trying to think, is there anything else for the gameplay? Anything else for the combat you want to talk about, or is that pretty much
Mm,
all of that?
no, I think we covered it pretty good. I liked the that they I was not expecting them to add a third weapon, but they did, and I actually really enjoyed it.
Yeah. Also, the shield
Like,
was good too. I love the shield, the
yeah,
block
that was actually
combos.
really cool.
When they
They
pulled that off, you'd be like, "Hoppa, hoppa," and like hit him forward with it. That was great.
like I liked that they gave you different shields to work with too. So like it was another category to like experiment with, and each shield had its own like usage, which was pretty
Yeah.
cool. Like I also really like that the spear is actually like a ring that just makes infinite spears
Yeah.
that
I mean,
also
that's how they
explode.
always had like infinite resources practically. That's how they
That
always
was
did
also
it.
super funny. It's just like I'm gonna miss having infinite gold.
Which, I mean, you learn pretty much it doesn't matter after considering what happens, but
Oh god, I was like
we'll
heartbroken
we'll get to it.
with that scene.
I almost actually forgot there was one more, I guess, small complaint that I had, which was when you would do a deflection and you do a counterattack immediately after, like you'd be like, okay, shield deflection, counterattack. Sometimes the enemy, especially in like the more like berserker fights and stuff, you'd be in the middle of like doing your counterattack. Another enemy would just come in, hit you, and you just see your health deplete, but your character's still going.
Yeah,
And I'm like, what the fuck? Like
I
that was the
definitely
only thing I didn't like.
it definitely felt like there were fewer moments of like invulnerability frames in the combat for this game, and yeah, there was a lot of times where I took damage where I felt like I wouldn't have in the last game.
Especially just also because you're like, cool, I did my deflection on time, which, sometimes can be difficult. And I'm going for the counterattack that doesn't really have too much, like, sometimes they don't even, it's not even that powerful compared to like your regular non-counterattack. And then you're getting like punished for it because someone's just attacking you while you're doing it. I'm just like, so then what was the point of counterattacking in the first place? What was I supposed to not even attack when I do the counterattack? Like it just
Also, like I would do my runic attacks and someone would attack me, and I'm just like, I can't, I literally can't dodge or anything right now.
yeah, it got annoying, especially like you just die getting health. Like you'd pick up health and then die just trying to do that. On I will
Mhm.
say at least I did like the idea that when you do like if they got close enough when you were picking up the health, it would actually blast them backwards for a
Dude, I
second.
used that in the berserker fights a few times to like stun the enemy.
It was honestly really useful, but other times like it would just be like if it was a ranged attack, you just got like you get the health and then you'd be like, cool, I'm about to die. Let me get this health, get the health, die because you went to get the health, and I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
So yeah. Otherwise. the music and the sound. I guess the music first. The music for this game was so freaking good, and also a good variety of stuff too. Like each character had their theme a bit.
Hmm.
Kratos still has his where it's like bum bum bum, but
Yeah,
I didn't
it's epic.
I didn't realize in like who had themes, like they had certain themes in the first God of War, because like I started to realize that Freya had a theme. And it took me about because it was it's like a very woods witch type theme. It sounds kind of twisted too when you're listening to it. And then I realized I'm like, I think Freya has my favorite theme.
She also might have one of my favorite arcs throughout the game.
Oh yeah,
Just like
Freya's so freaking. I got
it's
so
so
excited when you play
interesting.
as her, or when you get her in as your companion. I was
Yeah.
like,
Like the fact
oh
that she
boy.
goes from literally trying to kill you in the beginning of the game to like cautious allies because she's like, I'll not kill you for now if you can free me of my stupid spell that like binds me to Midgard. And then you do that, and she's like, I'm still possibly irreparably mad at you, but I get it,
Yeah,
and I'm still not gonna kill you for now.
and Kratos even says like, I shouldn't have done it without your
Yeah.
permission. Like, I shouldn't have taken
I
your
robbed
choice
you of
away
that
from you.
choice.
Yeah, but it gets yeah, we'll get to that. But yeah, it was really good. Otherwise, yeah, the music was really fun. The music at the end of the game was amazing. It like just pops off.
Dude, when Kratos is like watching Atreus like go off on his own journey and just like, oh my god, and the music.
Such a good combination, guaranteed tears. Holy shit!
Yeah.
It was funny too because I'm like, well, I'll talk about it in a bit. That's another story thing we'll talk about. But yeah, what's Bear McCreary, the composer, did such a fantastic job with this game, just like he did in the last game. And you look back of like the old God of War stuff, it's like, oh, da 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 da,
Yeah.
oh, da, and you're like, oh, that's so fucking epic. And then you get to this one, and it's like older wise, it's like dun dun dun, and you're like, oh, like it's so good how you can feel some of the same like foundations, but otherwise, like it's like completely different, but both just sound like Kratos. It's just like here's
One
angry
thing I
Kratos and
noticed that
here's like older, wiser Kratos.
one thing I noticed a few times in Ragnarok that I feel like they did in the previous games was like in quieter segments when you're just like exploring, there'd be like kind of like a Greek wood flute going on in the background. And there was like a lot, it seemed like a few moments like that in
Mm.
Ragnarok too. And I was just like, damn, it sounds like original God of War sort of from time to time.
You're waiting for that area to press circle of the pot, and you're like, wait, when do I
Yeah.
get to when do I get to smash?
Hey Freya, let's let's like hide over here for a minute. Like
Oh,
I
boy,
don't know if
fuck
that
off.
happened.
Boy, I need you to go hunting for a little bit.
Hey Dad, can I be in your tent for the night? No.
Dude, okay, another we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. Fuck. Oh my god. Okay, okay. The sound design itself was fantastic. I love the sound of the blades. Amazing. It sounds so good when you're
Dude,
swinging
this
around.
I didn't think they could find anything more satisfying than the like thwack of like grabbing the axe again. But they I think they outdid themselves with the spear like clang it on the
Oh,
ground.
that's so good. And you hear like bum 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 as it
Yeah.
pops off the enemy. Yeah, no, the spear was so freaking good. Like their sound design team does such a good job with that. And then also the fact that like each enemy sounds completely different and sounds crazy. And I always love it when you get to do like monsters and creatures and other stuff. And I'm honestly torn for like, is this game the best sound I've heard this year? Or was it Horizon? Because I don't know why the robot dinosaurs in that
The
always are
machines
so
definitely
phenomenal.
sound very unique and interesting.
Yeah. So I'm so torn because I'm like, creatures versus robots. I don't know what sounded better, but at least in terms of like the arrows also sound amazing too that Aloy uses. So I'm like
Yeah.
I'm so torn on which one I thought had better sound, but those were for sure the two best sounding games this year for me. Uh Otherwise, like the environments were full of life, full of sound. It felt so it's for sure the best sounding God of War game, easily. it just sounded magical. Like I felt like I was in a world, and each world sounded completely different. Like each world looked different, and each world sounded different, which was really
Oh
nice.
yeah.
God, it's so freaking good.
Even like it was interesting that Elfheim, like the last time we saw it, it was like we went to like the lake in like the temple of light or whatever. And like in this game, you go to like a desert area
Yeah,
and you learn more about the dark elves. And so like again, just like Midgard, like even the realms that you go to that you've been to in the previous game, it's like completely different.
yeah. So, God, it's great. Art wise, you know, it looked great. I think we said it really when we were talking about the realms and the variety, but yeah, it was fantastic. I guess ready for the main course.
Sure.
So the story for this game, they outdid themselves because the last game, you know, it's a full on journey, it's an adventure, and you know a lot of stuff happens, but it didn't like it. I'll say in one sense, it did an amazing job because it took the combat, the gameplay, and the story made it go from like, all right, it's a really fun game, just like the old God of War games, but it made you care what was going on in it. Like you really started to get invested to the point where I'm like, God of War 2018 for me is potentially probably like my game of the generation for
It
PS4,
might
Xbox One
be
era.
one of my favorite games of all time.
Yeah, it went
And
from because I never cared about God of War stuff, and then I played them once and I was like each one and I'm like, that was fun, whatever. And then I played 2018 and I'm like, everything changed. And then Ragnarok came out and I'm like, I'm getting the biggest collector's edition I could possibly get. I don't do this, but I'm doing it for this game because it's that fight. I don't even do this for The Last of Us, dude. But I did it for this. I was like, not Horizon, not Last of Us, but God of War. I'll do it for that. Like that's how I was
yeah,
feeling.
I was actually like I replayed God of War 2018 like about a month or so before Ragnarok came out, and I was like surprised that like I've already played this game before. I know all the story beats for the most part. The like or like remember all the story beats. And I'm still blown away by just how insanely well done this game is. It's like I've never had that experience where I am surprised by how good something is, even though I've literally already experienced it and know it's good, and it still outdoes my expectations of something that I've already seen before.
Yeah. God.
And yeah, Ragnarok is just like better somehow.
Yeah, they life finds a way to to just move to the
Uh,
next step. Uh this story though, like that's all that what 2018 did. And it was like I said, game of the generation. This era just started. I don't think Ragnarok will be my game of the generation for this
yeah, we'll
gen,
see.
but it's still it's like the first one did what it needed to do, and it's probably gonna be a completely different type of game that gets my attention this like gen of like 5 years or so, 6 years. I don't know how many years it's gonna be. And Ragnarok, I don't think will be on that list. But or it might be on like my it won't be on my list because it's probably gonna be games that are only on PS5, Series X, PC, stuff like that of like that generation, to really utilize its power. But this game still, in terms of its story, and it I was so invested, and it made me go more. It had more emotion in this one than the last game, like tons more, because you have already established characters now besides Kratos. But I mean, honestly, Kratos felt like a re-established character last game, so he felt practically new.
Mhm.
Whereas this one, you have these existing characters now. You have newer characters, and you care about so many of them, but especially like your main kind of like conglomerate of characters from the
Like
previous game,
it's like even the Asgardians that you don't get as much time with like still feel like super fleshed out. Like
like Sif.
even Heimdall is like a jackass, but like he feels like fleshed out and stuff because like he is like always suspicious of Loki because he's right. Loki is like not really on their side the whole time, and like no one else believes him. And like Thor, like there are hints throughout the game that like that he is not like happy. Like there's a specific moment where he's like telling Loki like stop trying to think. It's better that way. And it's just like
Yep.
that sounds like a guy who's just been defeated.
Well,
And
it's
just like
Thor is the antithesis. He is the antithesis of Kratos.
yeah.
Because Kratos is like what happens when you have a horrid history and you like you try to improve yourself from it and like take a second chance. And it's like, what happens if you get swallowed up by your history of violence and he
Yeah.
just drinks and like becomes like a shithead
Like
pretty much.
basically Odin has told him his entire life, like, you are nothing but my destroyer. You destroy what I tell you to, and that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
which God.
and like even Sif and like Thrud were interesting characters, and then like even Brock and Sindri we get more of in this game, and they feel like way more fleshed out characters
And
because
then you
you
wish
you
you
learn.
didn't get them as fleshed out.
Oh man, yeah, just like God, the and like Sindri specifically felt like such a more complete character. Like the way he became such good friends with Atreus between games, and like they're hanging out like behind the scenes and stuff like that. Like it's awesome. And then like yeah, what happens later is just like literally heartbreaking for
Yeah.
me.
um I like the way they tell Ragnarok, where the whole idea of like, yo, this is fate. It's not fate. We make our own destiny. And it's a whole thing of like, you find out Faye is the one that destroyed the shrine in Jotunheim. So they don't know what their fate is, so they can choose by themselves. And then you find out like at the back of the main thing at the end. Like it shows first, like it shows Faye destroying everything, and they're like, oh wow, okay. And they feel like they're like, yeah, we write our own fate. Like we do it ourselves. Fate doesn't dictate what we do. We do what we need to do on our own. And then Kratos goes in the back and it's like, nah, bitch, we had you pegged like this the whole time. And you're like, oh, like it was fate, you sons of bitches.
Yeah. I also like that they go from most of the games like we have to prevent Ragnarok because supposedly Kratos dies. And I also love that like both Kratos and Atreus are trying to prevent Ragnarok because Kratos wants to protect Atreus and Atreus wants to protect Kratos. And neither of them for most of the game trust each other to like work together until they finally do.
Yeah.
Um and then like the thing happens, and then there's just like, okay, we're going to war. Odin needs to die. Fuck him. Ragnarok is happening.
Yeah. And they just go about it like they do such a good job of like conveying their relationship. And it's also Atreus coming of age. He's getting older. And
Mhm.
that whole thing of like, you can't protect him forever. He needs to be his own person. And you're starting to get that through it, where he goes off on his own adventures. He gets even Kratos to trust him to go to Asgard the second time, and all these different things unfold. And I
Dude, the
think
first
they,
time Loki went to Asgard, I was like, you're being so stupid.
yeah, I mean,
Why?
everyone was like, "Don't do this," but it's like, it's him rebelling, and also he's Loki.
Mhm.
Like Loki does his
Yeah.
own thing, and when you really think about that whole, I guess, lore, uh, the fact that they were able to tell Atreus's story on his own at certain points really just, I think, amplified the story of these two characters, because like you enjoy Atreus in the first game, but you're still very much just like, this is about Kratos for the most part.
Mhm.
And this game felt like the transfer of power, where you're like, no, it's about a father and a son. And like remind you of that in the first game, where it's like, yeah, it's because Loki was just I mean, Atreus is just like, even now I'm starting to call him Loki. Atreus was
Nah.
just a little kid in the first game. Like he was really young. Like
Yeah, he
you've
was like
seen,
10 years old, maybe.
I actually wanted to go back and watch the reaction of the people in the theater when they got the reveal of God of War 2016. And it shows Atreus like playing with toys. He's playing with toys and he's like,
Yeah.
"Ah," like I'm afraid to do it. And his voice
Yeah, I
is
went
so
back and
small.
watched that, and it was like a very different opening. Like a
Yeah.
lot changed from the original game
Whereas and
or the
it's
final
supposed to be
game.
like 2 years later or something, and it's like, dude, it felt a lot more than 2 years. Or at least I guess that the journey takes time. This whole I feel like the span of time during, not between the games, but during the games is actually a big span of time practically. Like a lot of things happen to where it's not like I don't feel like it's like a few days. Like this takes time.
It's definitely
And
been a few years because like Fimbulwinter is in like full effect, and like I love how it's like I guess Freya has just been hunting them for a while now, and they're just used to her occasionally showing up and them having to run for their lives.
yeah, they're just like, quick, get into the safety of the
Yeah, she's like,
fucking,
is it her?
yeah, there's like, she's back, dad. It's like, oh fuck.
It's like barely gets away. She's like, Kratos.
God, I was afraid in the beginning. I was like, don't make her the villain, please. But
Yeah.
uh,
I was like, I really hope we could fix this.
yeah, dude, that's why. I mean, we'll get to, yeah. So I'm trying to think of other aspects before we get to like the whole character arcs, I guess, of like the specifics. I mean, fuck it. I so we have Kratos, Atreus, and Freyr, probably the three main characters you get,
Yeah.
and then you have Thor, Sif, Odin, Thrud, Heimdall, and then like the Rebellion, plus Mimir and Brock and Sindri. And I guess let's just hit up the Brock and Sindri. I appreciated that we learned that Brock is blue for a reason. You're like, why the fuck is his dwarf blue? It's like, dude, a quarter of his soul is missing. And you're
Well,
like,
I don't think that's it though.
that wasn't it. I thought that's why all
Well,
the other dwarves are normal colored. He's the only one missing a
yeah.
piece of his soul.
In the previous game, Sindri mentioned that like it's because his brother doesn't like to wear gloves and stuff, and that's a callback to like
Oh,
some uh metalsmiths, like blacksmiths that work with silver without gloves. They'll like the silver will like leach into your body, and then like I am going to get a lot of the science of this wrong, but like the basic idea is that same way that like old photography used silver to help expose photos, the same
mm,
effect can happen to your skin. But when you expose photos just to like general light,
mhm.
it just ends up being like kind of just like a darkish color or whatever because it just is overexposed or something like that.
Okay.
So though people who have like silver poisoning or whatever tend to turn bluish, so that's why Brock is blue. But yeah, we do
Challenge
find out though
accepted.
that
I'm gonna
he
try to turn blue.
yeah.
I'm putting silver in my body, and now I'm blue, and I could fight werewolves.
That's why like don't listen to those like health nuts that are like take these silver nitrate pills or whatever. And it's like no, don't do that. That's not good. That's not good for you.
Don't do it. You'll be blue. Uh,
uh yeah,
so okay, so you learn like
but
Brock's missing a part of his soul, and that
yeah,
was tough. Like you're just like, oh shit.
dude, like I was the whole time I was wondering like, well, what part of his soul? Like obviously it can't be his personality because he
Yeah, that's
seems to have a
very
personality. Like I mean, maybe it was his luck, and like I didn't like they say after he dies that it's his direction, and that was like the saddest. Like I don't know if you got that like extra thing when Mimir was talking when Atreus asked him like, so does is like Brock just like going to the Well of Souls now? And he says like, no, I'm sorry, like when a soul has lost its direction it can't find its way back to the Well of Souls, so Brock doesn't even get an afterlife. And I was just like, fuck, that makes it even worse.
that's why I think that's why it was so like ultra that was like overkill was because like the whole thing of like when he died the first time Sindri missed that piece of his soul and
Like he literally went like dragged what left of his brother he could back from the dead
yeah
basically
and which you
because he
learn
didn't want to be alone,
and you're like you should have
which
just left him alone obviously but never try that guys. The Sindri tells Kratos and Atreus they already find out and then Brock finds out when he's with Kratos and the mermaid is there and it's like wait how come I couldn't hear anything and it's like you have to be fully alive or like you have to evolve your soul
or
and
it's like,
then
why
that's
didn't the mermaid notice me? And it's like because they see people's souls, not their physical form, or something like
yeah
that.
and that's when he realized like oh fuck I was dead
It's like I did
and
die. That bastard lied to me.
yeah so like he I guess was going to talk to Sindri about it at a certain point but we never get to that chance and instead like the last thing Brock says to Sindri is like I know what you did and he's like I forgive you and that was like tough because I mean like that was the whole betrayal was Tyr and
I did
looking
not see that
back
coming.
dude no one I did not see that coming whatsoever but
I
if
do love that there's hints throughout the game though.
you go back and watch clips of him and you're like
Dude, the scene I saw a clip today where like the scene where you find out that Groa lied and that like only Asgard falls and Odin dies, and like Tyr is like slack jawed and he's just like, and it's clear like if you know it's Odin, he's just like, oh fuck, I've been working off of the wrong prophecy this whole time. Shit, fuck.
Yeah, he can't believe it. Also, he doesn't have a right eye, and Atreus is on his right side, so he doesn't even have the depth perception. That's why he walks
I didn't
into
even
Atreus.
notice. I didn't even notice.
Someone this is pointed out, and I'm just like, holy
I
shit.
assumed he just was so dumbfounded he just didn't bother to like notice Loki, but that with the eye missing, that oh interesting. Huh.
I think the fact that you don't see it coming at all, comboed with, hey, we gave you hints, but there were hints you would never have even like thought of until after. Like I don't know why that's such a good
I
idea,
just
but
like
it's so freaking, it's so smart.
I love that scene because like Brock is just like, "Hey, where are you going with that mask? That's the kid's mask." And like, none of this is making any sense anyway. It's not. And I love him the way he says it's like it's not welding together true. Like it's a blacksmithing term because
Yeah.
that's like his whole thing is being a blacksmith.
And since when do you call him Loki?
Yeah, and you're just like, wait, yeah, huh? What? Yeah, no, there are things that aren't adding up. And then before you can even like put it together yourself, he's just like, "Don't you ever shut up!" And he stabs Brock in the chest, and I literally gasped.
Yeah.
And like that's really hard to surprise me that far.
God, that was, dude, that was crazy. And it's like, oh yeah, in Tears room the whole time there was like a Raven in there, just like hiding so he could keep
Yeah,
transporting in
and
and
like
out.
that's why he was like chose the broom closet because he's like, I just, I've been in a cell so long, I just prefer small spaces. Don't check my room though.
Fucking genius. I can't believe they did that with Tyr though. Like the fact that you get hyped up in the very first trailer when it shows Tyr and he like stands above Kratos and you're like, this dude's a fucking
Yeah,
giant, and you're like, we got the Norse god of war, it's a god of war team up, and then it's like, nah, bitch, it was Odin, and you're like,
and it even makes
oh
sense that like the first thing that happens in the game is like Odin and Thor show up, and Odin specifically says like, I will completely leave you alone. Just don't look for Tyr. And that was him planting the seed of like, well, okay, if Odin's going to be a problem, we maybe should look for Tyr. And
yep.
then and that was his plan because he was Tyr.
Yeah, Odin is like the true spy master, the true just like wielder. He just makes the full webs and has so much deceit. They do such a good job of like your enemy, because a lot of these games, you know, the enemy is big strong man. You have to fight big strong man and defeat big strong man. Even like Baldur was like lanky strong man, but like
Yeah,
uh even Thor's big strong man, but like, and he's not the true enemy. That's the thing. He's not the true enemy. Odin's the true enemy. And it's like, what's Odin? It's like Odin is a big brain. Like his fight didn't even feel as hard as like other fights. Like I didn't even have trouble fighting
dude.
Odin.
Oh no, it wasn't even that bad. But like
It was
also,
just the fact of everything he did
and
was
like
smart in the
there are
story,
there were
making him a
moments where
good
like
villain.
Mimir would say shit like even when Odin's telling the truth, it's a lie. Like
Yeah.
there's always some sort of deceit behind what he's doing. You cannot trust him.
And they do
And
such a
it's
good
weird
job
just
of making him like diffuse an enemy, where he's like, he just is talking. He's like, "What do you think? I'm not going to fight you," and all this other stuff. And you're like, "Oh, he does a good job of trying to trick Atreus and trick the audience when they're playing in the very
dude,
first
he tricked me for a while because like when you go to Asgard and it's just like he doesn't seem like that bad of a
I
guy.
knew he was bad. I knew it
And yeah, and
from
like the whole
the
time I was just like, okay, Freya was very clear of like some of the things that he did to her, and like he did do those
he
things. So
ordered
he
Odin or Thor to kill the giants. Like it wasn't
like
Thor that just
yeah,
actively did it. Odin
like
was the one that said
he
all this shit.
so the whole time I was like, he can't actually be this good. And then like turns out he's not.
Yeah, and it's like I even when he was acting nice in the beginning and he's like, go where you want, like just, you know, don't take the mask out of the realm and stuff. Like I knew, I was like,
Yeah, take this magic sword,
I'm
perk of the trade.
I'm like, I'm waiting for what the fuck is gonna happen, because it's gonna happen. And I think that, like, you know, he's like, you murdered Mimir, and he's like, you know, I was young and stupid. Ymir, not Mimir, Ymir, the first giant.
Yeah. I thought I
And
could do more or
yeah, and I'm
better.
like, that was the closest I came to where I'm like, I know he's still bad. I'm like, I see what he's doing there, but he's admitting his like crime, but using it in like, yeah, that was me in the past, just to solidify of like, I'm different now. I've changed all this stuff. I've changed a lot. And it's like, no, he hasn't. He really, he acts, he even tries to, I feel like he even tries to fool himself so he can just keep going.
Yeah,
But
like I think at some point he tried to argue that, like, all the knowledge that he tries to seek, it's just to try to find like a better solution for everything.
and that's what
And
he
it's
even
like,
thinks probably, but
and it sounds believable.
but it is for all him. Everything is for
Yeah.
him. And it's like fairly obvious. It's one of those things where everyone knows that but him, even though he's
Uh
the one doing it.
like I loved how he literally kills Thor like immediately as soon as Thor even thinks against him.
You're
He's
no
just
longer
like,
useful, yeah.
yeah, he's like, you're no longer useful. And
That's why he didn't
like
give a shit about his grandson's dying.
yeah, and he literally, to his like basically dying breath, Odin was like, I had to do that. Thor was in my way. Like
I had
I
no
had
choice.
no
And it's
choice.
like there's always a choice. I'm like, yeah, there is always a
Yeah.
choice.
He's like,
Like,
dude, you murdered your own son because he was like saying you're being a dick.
he wasn't even being a dick anymore. It's just like, I don't want to kill dad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, come on. That was crazy. But I think also, I mean, I'm trying like because I feel like we're hopscotching everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
uh, going through the story itself, like everything from like, oh, Freya trying to kill them to going to the different realms, getting Tyr. Like, I thought it was all really good. I like that you're also uncovering more of Faye's past, piece by piece. And
Yeah.
you already talked about the whole Vanaheim thing. Like that was insane too. But like also learning like she was part of a rebellion, or at least the first rebellion, and eventually, we get to Ragnarok, and I guess I just really want to talk about the Ragnarok fight itself, just because that was
Dude, like
insane.
that was so like Avengers Endgame style, like the realm, all the armies of all the realms fighting against Asgard, which is like everything coming together. It was so insane.
What was crazy though, I
Dude,
was
even when Sindri was like the only one that came from like
Svartalheim.
Svartalheim, and it's just like, oh my god, even Sindri got the army of Svartalheim. Oh, it's just him, and then he just does like one hammer strike and takes out all the battle armaments of Asgard, and he's just like, were you looking for something like that? And I was just like, oh shit, Sindri's a badass.
Yeah, like literally the gloves were off. He took off the gloves.
Dude, that was the moment where I knew like that he was like irreparably damaged, when he was like had his brother, like he had his gloves like torn off and his brother's like blood on his hands. And I was just like, that is significant because he is like literally a germaphobe. And at this point, he's just like, I don't care. I've lost everything.
Yeah. And I mean, that's also a crazy part was like someone gave a great analogy that Sentry is the giving tree, where the giving tree, it kept giving and giving and giving until like finally like it gave everything it had until it was just a stump. And you see Sentry by the end of it, and he's just the stump. Like there's nothing left of him, or at
He's
least
literally broken.
yeah. I mean, it was his own choice of like the way it became. And yes, like it is their fault that this happened, but Odin tricked everyone. Like it's something it felt like unavoidable. Like you didn't expect
Yeah.
this. And
And like there was a moment where Atreus, like after it happened, he was saying like, I should have done this, I should have done that, and Kratos stops him. He's like, you should have done what? Seen through a deception that fooled us all? Like, no, like he fooled all of us,
yeah, and
not
it's like
just you.
Sentry is just like he's grieving. It's like he's gonna lash out
Yeah.
at everybody, and it's gonna take a good amount of time before he heals, depending on what goes on. But
Yeah. I do like
yes,
that you get to actually see him just like disappear. It's like, oh, that's how that works.
yeah,
He just literally blinks out of existence.
he just didn't care anymore. He's like, I'm not gonna do the fun little ways
Yeah.
of like reappearing, disappearing, and stuff, which was always fun watching that happen. And it was always
Yeah.
like goofy, but now it's just like, fuck you guys, I'm
And
out. And
just
you're
like
just like, oh,
that, like the last riddle where it's like, what gets bigger when you take something away? And like he doesn't figure it out until the end, and it's just like it's a hole. It's just like, ah, Jesus.
so freaking good. And that was eating Mimir. Like that was conversations on multiple points where you'd just be going exploring, and he's like, "What's the fucking riddle?" And Kratos is
Yeah.
like, "I don't care."
My guess was a debt, but
Yeah. Oh yeah, that makes sense. I like the rebels. They were cool. Bergir had the most like epic scene
dude,
in
the
this
dude who,
game.
like, I like that he used to be a traveler. It was just
Yeah.
like, it's a lie. Odin's a fraud.
Everyone's like, no, we're gonna be fucking insane berserkers still. Or not berserkers. They were, it was a different part.
Travelers.
Yeah, the travelers were, God, there were so many fucking enemies.
Yeah. Yeah, I
But
love he's just like, I'll save everyone for Vanaheim.
But his full, like, the minute the minute the camera goes to him, you immediately know when he starts doing the chant, and you're just like, oh shit," and then he just does it, and it's
And somehow he
so
lives.
epic. He lives. I'm so happy he lives because, do you know his whole end game, right?
Yeah,
He
I think.
he moves into Freya's house.
Oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh! I didn't see that.
Yeah, so if you go back to the camp well, first I knew I'm like, I need to go back to Kratos and Atreus' house, and I need to go back to Freya's old house, the turtle. And you go back there, and Freya's like, "I'm sorry, I haven't done anything for you. Like, I let my
Yeah, I saw
vengeance
that
cloud my."
one.
Well, later on, she's like, I need someone to watch the turtle. And if you go back to Freyr's camp, after everything, like, you see Sif there with what's his face, and
Yeah, that
in
was
one of the
cool.
tent areas, he's kind of hidden, but he's in one of like the tent areas, and you go to him, and uh he's like, "I'm retired, like, I'm done. I'm gonna hang up my sword. There's no need for me to fight anymore, and I just want peace and kind of solitude for the most part." And Freya's like, "Oh, actually, I have a place perfect for you." And she's
Yeah,
like, "Why don't you move into my old place and take care of my turtle?" And he's like, "Oh, that sounds great, actually." So yeah, he's gonna move there, and which is funny because Freya basically still lives with Kratos. But
yeah,
he was cool. I liked the light elf dark elf couple. Uh,
yeah,
and I love that, it's like the kind of the more soft-hearted guy and like the strong warrior woman. And she's like, because the dark elves can fly, so she's just like flying around and shooting stuff with the crazy staff. And then
and he's like a nerd for books.
yeah, the dwarf, I forget the dwarf girl's name. Um,
Oh,
Lunda,
yeah, dude,
Lunda.
I loved her. Like she's like constantly hitting on Kratos.
She's like, she even hits on Freya too, and Freya's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
thank you." I
I love
guess.
there was like a moment where she's like, Kratos, hun, like if I'm making you uncomfortable, I could stop. And he's like, no, it's fine.
He's like, "I enjoy it." She's like,
Yeah.
"Oh, good." Oh god, that was so funny. And then also, what was it? It's like, Atreus, watch out for her. And he's like, "Why?" It's like, she's just watch out for her.
Yeah.
I mean, she becomes your smith post game.
Yeah.
She's your smith for everything.
I should
So
have been
that
suspicious that something was gonna happen to one of the brothers when they introduced like a third like blacksmith, but like
it didn't even dawn on me. I'm just like,
yeah.
"Oh, cool, there she is." And then I'm like, "I guess she's just in Vanaheim." And little did I know, I'm like, "She's your smith now. Like, that's it, bro."
Yeah, I was like, I don't even get Sindri, no.
She also, I mean, she still has the same dork magic as them because she can
Yeah.
reappear and disappear to all the different places. Uh, I also like, she's like, "Hey, you guys should go to Alfheim. There's something really cool there." And you go and you see Thrud picking up Thor's hammer,
That was
and
awesome.
she's worthy. I was like, "Oh shit!" Like,
She's like, I'll make you proud, Dad.
Thrud, dude, a fucking a Mjolnir wielding Valkyrie.
Oh, I forgot she also wants to be a Valkyrie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
think about that. I was like, "Oh my god, that's the
Dude,
dopest
I gotta
shit."
admit, like I'm not usually into like large 80s hair, but
Oh,
like
her
her hair
hair
was
was
so big and I loved
Thrud
it.
was a lion. She was just, they designed her like a lion. I'm like looking at her and I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just watching this lion talk to Atreus. And she's got swords and she's Thor's daughter." Was it Thor? Thor's daughter. And like that's how she said her name. And it was
Yeah,
like,
Thor's
yeah,
daughter.
yeah. I was like, "Oh, that's great." Also her voice actress. I was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
Sif
it's
is
like
Elena,
Penny from
Penny from Lost in Space."
yeah. Dude, I was like, she looked so familiar like for so long, and then I saw like the casting and I was like, oh shit, it's her. And the same with Freya. I was like, is that looks like what's her name from Daredevil slash True Blood. But and it, like I
Oh
think it
no,
is her.
you mean Faye, not Freya.
Faye. Yeah,
Yeah, that
sorry,
was
Faye.
I forget what her name is, but yeah, Jessica and like
Yeah, what the fuck
what's
was it?
Daredevil's, what's her name in Daredevil?
Oh man, I'm totally blanking.
Holy shit. No. I knew her.
Karen.
Karen,
Karen
yeah.
Page.
Karen yeah. Like
Yeah.
yeah, the minute they show her, I'm like, "Dude, where do they get all these redheads?"
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, it was fantastic having them both in there. And then Elena Fisher's voice actress from Uncharted was Sif. I kept
Mm.
hearing her voice and I'm like, "I know who this is." And I'm like, I'm like, "What movie is she from?" And I'm like, "Dude, she's not from, I mean, I know she's from stuff, but I'm like, it's not a movie you're thinking of. It's a game." And I'm like, dude, that's Lena. Holy shit. It
Dude, Sif
was
had so much hair. Just like all the
dude,
way
that thing was
down.
long. I was like, where'd you get all that? Like, what's going? Because you know, you think of Sif and like the Thor, like in Marvel and everything, and then you see her here, and I'm like, oh
She's
shit.
just like incredibly hot.
Well, I mean, she's supposed to be like a diplomat, compared to like, you know, in the other one, she's like, I'm a warrior, and she's like, I lost my fucking
Yeah.
arm. All this shit. Uh,
Let me die and go to Valhalla. It's like, well, technically you didn't die in battle. You're just dying after the battle. It's like,
oh shit.
I don't think that matters,
I mean,
dude.
it's fucking Taika Waititi. You didn't give a shit about Thor. He's
Uh,
like I said, good Taika Waititi movies, horrible Thor movies. But the yeah, Sif was cool. I mean, I was just it was fun seeing all these familiar like voice actors, like just actors and voice actors coming in, and it was awesome. Like just kind of, I like that I'm now at a point where I could recollect where I'm like, I know who this person is. Like I could just tell by their voice. I don't need to see them. I just hear their voice, and they sound so familiar to me, which is really fun. I always enjoy that a lot. Where there's a lot more identifiable voices at this point. The harder ones, of course, are Nolan North, because who knows what the fuck he's going to sound like sometimes. So you're just like, who is this? It's like, oh, dude, that penguin, that's Nolan North.
Every time I hear Lance Reddick in a game, I'm just like, oh, okay, sold.
Yeah, you know it's Lance Reddick. Aloy, it's me, Zavala. Oh, okay. Mr. Wick.
Except for that Resident Evil show. I don't know if I can bring myself to watch that.
Hey, you don't need to. It's okay. I did it so you wouldn't have to. Unless you want to see like Lance Reddick play like 4 people.
That is true. I do get more than one Lance Reddick
Just
in that
watch that
show.
scene. It's only in like one scene where it shows all 4 of them, because then there's like anyway. I enjoyed, of course, we talked about the Rebels. Oh, Freyr. Freyr was fun. I also didn't realize someone was like, yeah, you know, like Freya and Freyr are like the gods of fertility and stuff, right? Male and female fertility, among like other stuff. And I'm
Yeah, they're
like,
both supposed to be like the 2 most like beautiful gods.
yeah. And it made sense later because, like, you know, they apparently everyone's like, yeah, Freyr was so handsome. We all love Freyr. And I'm like,
Yeah,
it
he
didn't
unites the
dawn on me. I didn't even
light and
think
dark
about that. I'm
elves.
just, yeah, and he's just like he's like a nice guy. And I'm like, yeah, he's just like this kind, nice guy that seems very oblivious, or not oblivious, naive or something.
Yeah.
That's what I was feeling, is just naivety from him. But he was really fun. And it was like, oh shit, Freyr died. And I'm like, he does a good job where his death wasn't as impactful as like Brock's, but also I don't think the deaths in this game weren't as impactful. Like, I mean, the biggest deaths were Brock's,
Yeah.
Freyr's, and Thor's were like the 3 big deaths. Like you were happy Odin's dead, but then you were
I don't
actually
know.
like,
I
oh,
was super satisfied when Odin died, and especially the fact that like they were gonna not kill him, and then Sindri just like takes the orb and smashes it. He's like,
yeah, no,
there.
that's what I'm saying. Odin's death was satisfying, but the ones where like you feel bad, like was like
Okay.
Thor too, and you're like, oh damn, he was gonna change too. It's gonna be better. Like that, you could have seen like a future where Thor wasn't a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And he just kind of, it's like, yo, just let your wife do the talking and just listen to what she says, and you should be fine. Uh, Otherwise, like, I think the scene that actually was the most emotional was, of course, the final scene of where Kratos and Atreus is like, I have to leave,
Yeah, there's
and
something I need to do, and I think I need to do it alone.
I
And
knew
he's just like,
like,
does it make you scared? Like,
yes, and
yeah,
he's,
like
yeah, we don't have to
then
say
you
the whole
need
thing.
to do it.
Yeah,
And it's just like, yeah.
so fucking good. And it's like, okay, Brock died, and I felt bad. I'm like, oh no, Brock died, but I wasn't like crying. I was fine. I'm like, I'm good. I'm like, damn, I can't believe they killed Brock. I'm like, that's kind of sucks, but all right, I'm with the game. And same thing with the other characters. But then like Atreus, like the minute, like you can tell it's happening, you can see Kratos, but the minute he goes, Loki, you know, Loki will go, but Atreus remains here.
Yeah.
I fucking like, I was like,
I love that like throughout the game they're just like, if like when you feel like you're losing control, hear my voice in your head and I'll try to do the same. And it's
and
just
they
like,
did it to each other
yeah.
like he's like, you know, when he's like, Heimdall left me to a choice, and he's like, it wasn't because of fate, it was because it was necessary. And it was so good, like in that second half of the game, they kept reinforcing each other, going, this
Mhm.
isn't fate, this is you did what you had to do, it's okay. And it was so good the way they did that. Like they do so much, like, I don't know, they just did such a good job. This, like, the whole thing of like this and The Last of Us. The Last of Us is like such a good father-daughter relationship where that game made me cry like twice or so. Where like the beginning, just where like seeing Ellie like smell Joel's clothing, and you're just like, oh my fucking, like you feel that feeling of like all that. And then in this one, it's like the father son, but it's not sad. It's like a happy sad, if that makes
Yeah,
sense, or happy
it's a
tears.
bittersweet because it's like
Yeah,
you're seeing your kid like
he's
go
going to
off on their
college.
own, and it's like you're scared for them, but you're proud, and like you know it has to happen, but you don't want it to.
Yeah.
You know, shit like that.
Sorry, my seat's like going up and down right now. It's not what's happening.
No, no worries.
But like the whole point of that was so well done, where you really just see it is Atreus coming of age. It's Atreus kind of
Mhm.
learning how to be on his own and doing his own thing, and Kratos going from being controlling to supportive and letting him do what he needs to do. Which ends with him, going like, "There's a ton of other giants out there, and I'm gonna go find them." And it's just like, I think it'll be the final thing we talk about, because it kind of leads up to like what comes next and stuff.
I love
But
he
like,
accidentally made the world serpent.
dude, okay, yeah, so that was great, dude. My chair is still fucking going down, Jesus
Like
Christ.
Angrboda like talks to him later. He's like, "Yeah, that snake you put that soul in, it's getting real big, like way bigger than normal."
I love that. I guess it was, yeah, so was it Jormanger, was that his name?
Jormungandr or something like that.
Jormungand, okay. I love that the one that you talk to in the first game, as well as like that brief point in the second game, is the post Ragnarok one.
Yeah,
Like
and
he
like
already lived through Ragnarok and was like, "Oh, hey, how's it going?" Like, I'm
that's
just
why he recognized you.
it's like, "Oh, you're the one that gave me the soul, and you're the one that like let me
Yeah.
grow." And he just shows up and starts fighting Thor. And
I
you're
love
just
like in the
like, "Holy
background of
shit."
one scene, Thor hits him real hard and just like blinks out of existence and just like, wait, that actually happened.
That was insane. That was so well done. And then you see like Sutro just show up like, "I'm gonna fucking destroy everything." And it's like, Ragnarok's
Yeah.
here. I love Freyr. Ragnarok's here, guys. The
Yeah.
fucking sword comes down. You're like,
Dude, I
oh.
love when Freyr like first shows up and he does the Thor like hold his hand up thing. You're just like, what's he doing? And it's like, oh shit, the magic sword was his the whole time.
Yeah, I love it. It's like, what are you doing? And waiting for it. And I'm like, that's crazy. And the sword, he loses the sword too, which sucks. But because that was a really cool sword.
Yeah.
Um, uh, Freya. Freya probably became like my favorite character in this game,
Yeah.
practically.
Dude, the
She
scene where she's explaining like after Kratos like breaks the spell with her, like I was like, she should probably win like best actress for this or something.
and
Like,
then
I mean,
they like
Christopher
do
Judge ended
they
up
do the
winning,
full
but
like hands like together. Uh
yeah.
and yeah, she's like, I don't know if I can ever forgive you, but I won't kill you and stuff. And I think that, coupled with, like I was saying, like that was my favorite song, was her theme. It was like the song playing around that. I think that part was probably my favorite part in the game.
Hmm.
In terms of just I think my top three parts is probably her being freed, Kratos singing goodbye to Atreus, and Berger's fucking dragon sacrifice. He just jumps off the goddamn boat, because that
Yeah.
was just so goddamn epic. Uh,
I love how they even set up that Nidhogg fight like beforehand, where like Ratatasker, if you talk to him, he like explains like, oh yeah, those things down there, like the children of Nidhogg. They like a Nidhogg like I tend to the branches of the world tree, and Nidhogg tends to the roots. And then like later on, you're messing with some roots, and fucking Nidhogg comes out of nowhere and attacks you, and you're just like, oh shit, we gotta kill Nidhogg.
God, that was crazy. And then, yeah, God, that was so good.
Dude,
Because
I love
they
Ratatasker.
built
He's
the
so funny.
Vanaheim, because they broke the Vanaheim curse first, and then allowed her to come in for full form
Yeah.
to then go and break the other ones, which is really good.
Right. That's
Because
why
I
she was
remember
able
she
to
was
help
trying to do it on
you.
her own, and she couldn't do it at first. I thought Kratos was going to help her, but she was able to do it on her own. I'm like, oh, that was really cool. Then she just
Yeah.
had to find all the willpower to like pull it off. But it goes from like that to her holding the rope over Odin, where it's just like, you
That
finally
was so
saved me the
cool.
last time. That was so good, because the way she talks, it almost sounds villainous, practically.
Well,
But you're
I
like,
think besides Sindri, she probably had the most like right to vengeance on him, I
yeah,
guess.
fucking sure. I gotta fix this thing. Yeah,
So yeah, like almost everything wrong in her life is his fault. So I get like seeing her like yeah, put the noose around his neck and just be like that close to like beating him
Yeah.
finally. I was just like that was so satisfying.
I mean, he's the reason Baldur is the way he is, or the way he was,
Hmm.
pretty much. So, but going through, you know, you find out everything about her. You see her relationship with the other Valkyrie queen, and just listening to her, having her instead of Atreus, just talking about everything from like the different realms to everything else was just so encapsulating. And it's funny because like, okay, they're not together, but like the way you have it, it felt like, you know, it's like, oh, it's father and son traveling. And then at certain points, you're just like, it literally felt like husband wife traveling, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
And it just felt so, especially for the fact that we see the final fight against Odin, that it's Kratos, Freya, and Atreus together. It just felt like a family fighting
Yeah,
their aggression, their like oppressor.
I did love that like the more time that Freya and Kratos have with each other and the more stories about each other that they share and the more they understand each other, like Freya goes from being like in the beginning of the game, like I'm gonna absolutely murder you to like, you know, I'll tolerate you to like, yeah, by the post game, she's like, I'm definitely not forgotten that he's murdered her son, but
But
like
they
they're
sound like
basically seems like good friends at this point.
very good, yeah. Like they even like she even jokes with him. Like she even like
Yeah.
jokes certain things, and it's really funny.
Dude, like one of my favorite conversations was when Mimir, well, one besides the PlayStation All-Stars reference.
So
Uh
Did you like the poems of Kvasir?
that was hilarious. I
I
love
was
that.
there were like a couple I couldn't get, but like
I
all of
love
them they
that
were great.
the Ghost of Tsushima one was a
It was just
haiku.
a haiku.
Yeah.
I knew that was the minute I'm like, I looked at that and I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Oh, it's a haiku. Let's go to Tsushima.
Yeah. But like my favorite conversation was when he was like when Mimir was like, "Hey Kratos, I've heard some pretty crazy stories from your homeland. Like they gotta be exaggerated, right?" Like and Kratos is like, "Well, what are you talking about? Like, what story do you think is exaggerated?" And he talks about like God of War 2 and he literally like kills the fates of Greece and like goes back in time to
They were
free
in
the
the way.
Titans. Yeah, and he's just like, yeah, no, they abused their power and I killed them and took it and used it for myself. And I turned it on on the mountain Olympus. And it's just like, you actually did that? That was incredibly irresponsible. He's just like, yeah.
He's just like, I mean, there's no more Greece, dude. What do you? It's
Yeah,
gone.
that's the funniest thing to me. I guess is that like I thought that Kratos just destroyed I thought he destroyed like the whole world in God of War 3,
He
but
just
I guess
destroyed
he just
Greece.
destroyed Greece.
I think that's what's interesting is like all of these gods are straight up just yeah, they're just like you
Dude,
get
I
this
want to go to
country or
this
this
world's
continent.
version of Egypt. Like that shit sounds cool.
Well, we'll be getting to that. But trying to think if there's anything else. Like, I mean, any characters we missed that we want to talk about? Any scenes
Uh
or any portions of the
I mean, we
story?
talked a little bit about Thor. We talked a little bit about Sif. Like, there's not much about Sif, but like, we could talk about Odin for a bit.
We did talk about Odin.
A little bit, yeah.
Like we talked about how he's cunning and betrayal, all this shit. He
Oh
was
yeah, okay. So
Tyr.
we got the
I will
major
say it
points.
was cool that we do see Tyr, the real Tyr. The real Tyr is in a fucking
Yeah,
prison. That was great, and it's
dude,
he's
that was like one of
exactly the
my
same.
that was one of the things about the game that I was like, I almost felt disappointed because again, like you mentioned in the trailers, I got so hyped that like, oh shit, we're gonna actually find and save Tyr. Like he's not actually dead. And then like you find out it was Odin the whole time, and I was like, oh damn, I guess Tyr was dead. That sucks. And then later on, you get a Niflheim after the game, and like one of the random fragments of Asgard that survived was a prison with Tyr in it, and you're just like, oh, cool. I guess we do find Tyr.
And it makes sense too, because like apparently Odin can only impersonate someone if they're alive. If they're dead, he can't impersonate
Yeah.
them, which is why Tyr was worth more than him to alive than dead. That's why he didn't kill him. And I do like that it's like, yeah, he basically all those people in the prison were all the people that Odin would impersonate.
Yeah.
It wasn't
It
just
also
Tyr.
it also makes sense that like why would Odin have imprisoned like one of his greatest like prisoners in a random mine in Svartalheim? Of course he would just keep him nearby in Asgard. because that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Also, I think a traveler was there too, if I recall.
Maybe.
I think you fight a traveler in there. One of the ones you open, it's a traveler in there, which makes sense because he was talking to the travelers and all that other
Yeah.
stuff, which caused all that shit. Um, I love though that Tyr, like the whole thing is like, yeah, he tries to be spot on with them, and that is just like Tyr. Like when you meet that Tyr, he's like, oh yeah, he's the same as like he was when Odin was him. And then you saw him, right? If you go to Freyr's camp, that's where he goes.
Yeah.
And the motherfucker's just doing yoga. He's just like stretching around, like doing like, oh yeah, like I'm doing all this shit. And
I
I'm
love when
like,
you like when you first find him, you tell him that you killed Odin, and he's like, "Wait, for real? Huh? I got a lot to think about now."
he's like, hey, I guess I'm free. So he's
Yeah.
gonna. It seems like he'll probably help with the reconstruction. The whole thing is like, I guess the biggest thing here is when you look at the back panel of that like the giant stuff there where it shows Kratos and it's like, oh yeah, it was actually fate the whole time. I tricked you guys. This was the whole plan. And
Yeah.
only Kratos sees it. The right panel shows him being worshipped as a god. And it's
Yeah,
like,
like
dude,
actually loved for once.
or Kratos is now the Norse god king,
And
more
dude,
or
and that got
less.
him like choked up because he's like, it's something I never thought was possible of
Yeah.
like some people loving him, I guess,
And the
let
cool
alone liking him.
I mean, when you really look at it, because the whole thing is like, yeah, because Freya's the queen, and everyone still treats her as the queen, not as like more or less the queen of Vanaheim, but like she's the leader of Vanaheim, and now Asgard is on Vanaheim, and she more or less is now leading the Asgardians. Not to mention, she's the queen of the Valkyries, and even
Yeah.
Thrud's just like, yeah, I want to serve under you, and like Sigrun and stuff, and because I'm like, I guess she'll probably train more with Sigrun, I'd assume, but
I love it. Thrud is like a Valkyrie nerd.
yeah. I mean, it's like, it's a woman she could look up to. It makes
Oh,
sense. They're
absolutely.
the top hierarchy of power. Um,
Well, like that was like one funny moment in Thor Ragnarok when he was like, I wanted to be a Valkyrie when I was a kid until I found out that I couldn't.
oh, Thor.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot that. I missed that. Um, but it's interesting because it's like, oh, more or less, Thor and Freya are like the king and queen now, kind of. Not together, but are just like the two top leaders of the Norse pantheon. And it's really interesting the way that kind of worked out the way it did. It's like, oh yeah, the Greek god of war is now like the Odin of the Norse mythology at this
Yeah.
point. What Odin's called the All Father, right? Was that the
Mhm.
way? Yeah.
Yeah.
So Kratos is kind of like, except he's like the one, he's the politician that's like, I'm gonna clean up the streets in person, and Odin's just like, I'm gonna send people, but it's actually making things worse because I'm a corporate bastard. Like
Yeah.
that's kind of how it went. And I guess I guess before we do the final part, uh how would you rate this? Like not you don't have to give a number, but like what would be the word to describe this game for you?
I guess the first thing that comes to mind is just epic because it's like not just in terms of like how much stuff there is to do in this game, but just like what you're doing is of epic proportions. Like the boss fights are insane. Like some of like the camera work is like unbelievable at times, and like the places you go and like the music, it all culminates into like an epic adventure.
I almost want to say it's a masterwork just because like
Oh, that's in the close
I think
second for
I
sure.
think I'm like using masterwork now, not because I'm not saying masterpiece, but I'm looking at masterwork of just because I played so
Destiny.
much Destiny of like the
Yeah.
masterwork stuff, and I'm like, dude, this is a masterwork. Like this is I fully leveled up this game. Like this game is fully leveled up. Like it's the highest potential this game could possibly have if unless it was on PS5, then it's actually fucking even higher, but whatever. Like it's so fucking good the way they pull that off. And I actually like that the way that you kind of I like that I made the Destiny analogy for it. But I'll put it this way. It's an open world type game that I wanted more of, not an open world type game that I was tired of and wanted less of and was getting exhausted with. Like I wanted more. Like if like Ghost of Tsushima and Horizon get expansions, like little DLCs, I wanted one for God of War 2018, and I'm like, I want one for Ragnarok. Just give me a little bit more. Just give me like just a little bit more. I'd love it just to satisfy that further thirst, like next year or something. Just give it to me. Like that'd be fantastic. Um, but I guess like looking forward, do you think this is the final God of War game?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. So
I would not be surprised if it's the last Kratos game.
that's what I'm. Yep.
Like, I also wouldn't be surprised if they bring him back for some reason or for one way or another. But it definitely feels like they're trying to make Atreus his own thing. But even like they don't even necessarily need to do Atreus. Uh, like
I
it'd be
mean, no,
cool
yeah,
if
they need to do trips. Yeah.
oh they do they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm saying they should, but they don't have to. But like if they don't do an Atreus thing, they could easily just do other games set in other parts of the world in other mythologies because they've already mentioned like a bunch of other ones.
And this is the
So
finish to the Norse.
yeah,
So,
so
so
that'd be cool.
the way I see it is this was like Kratos is now the god of the Norse pantheon. He is going to be like there. This is his home now. He's going to rebuild it and make it thriving and like make it a peaceful, nice place. And Atreus is like, I need to find my own adventure. And the giants are like, scattered to God knows where. And with Atreus, you see a full like the whole thing with this game, like I said, it felt like a transition. You're like transitioning to a new character because that's gonna be the character you play next game, probably solo. And for Atreus, it's interesting because it changes the whole dynamic. Whereas Kratos for like what was it, 8 games or so?
Mhm.
I want to say it's 8 games. He got more and more powerful, and he was already powerful, but he was like a full grown adult and stuff like that. Whereas Atreus is still young, and I imagine there'll be like a small flash forward for him, where he's probably like a little bit older. Because how old was he in this? Like 16,
Uh
14?
like he definitely looked mid-teens.
Yeah, he was probably like 15 in this. And just because he was really young in the last game, like he was young, he was just a little kid. He was probably
Yeah.
like 11 or 10 or something.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Uh,
10 or 11.
so I feel like he was like 14 or 15 in this one. And I think like you're gonna start with Atreus now at this age, and he doesn't feel that strong. But now you can do a whole slew of games in like probably a couple different realms of like I mean a couple different mythologies potentially. Watching him grow from the start and seeing him become a form of god of war or something, like he becomes his own god because he's like, he's the son of both Greek and Norse like mythological power in one, like half giant, half Greek god of war.
But also
uh,
Loki is known as like the god of trickery. So like
yeah, I
it'd
mean
be
he
interesting
wasn't
if they went with
really.
well, they make some jokes about it, but yeah, it would be interesting if like maybe because of that they lean into like maybe a little bit more stealth for him. But I did love there was like one moment where Mimir is like, "Hey Kratos, you think maybe for the next encounter we could go with like a slightly more stealthy approach?" And he's just like, "No."
Yeah, so there's gonna be probably a lot of difference with gameplay, difference with everything. Like you could see potentially like he's not gonna be strong yet, and they'll want to they'll want to keep probably still the same type of formula more or less, but I think it'll allow for maybe stealth or some other stuff. Like, hey, he has a lot more potential of like different type of different types of combat style because he isn't as strong as Kratos. So he's not afforded the same like luxuries of just running in, fuck you, and just kill everything. I definitely think we're gonna go to Egypt next, just because like yeah, there are other pantheons, and they did tease other pantheons in the last game, but in terms of just popularity, the three are Greek, Norse, and Egyptian. So it makes sense to
Yeah.
do you'll want to do the most popular one, and then like you've already now established such a powerful franchise of mythologies that you could keep going with the others after. But like I feel like they'll do it as long as they can until it doesn't become popular anymore. And it's like Egypt it will make everything insane. Like you'll want Egypt because Egypt is insane with gods, and Egypt of all the three, Egypt is probably the most. That's the one I want the most because that's the one I loved as a kid, or at least was like obsessed with. because the whole idea of like Anubis, Osiris, Horus, Sobek, all those different gods are so fucking cool. Isis, like,
Also, like the little I know about Egyptian mythology is just it's so very different
yeah,
from all the others, and just like it's hard to describe.
it is.
It's it's just like
There's a lot more
wild.
gods too, if I remember correctly. Like it has a
Oh,
much
there's a shit
bigger
ton.
pantheon than the other ones because each they like have a god of each different thing. They're like that. There's a god for this, god for that, god for that, god for that, and you're like, holy shit! And they're like, honestly, there's like 3 gods for this one thing
I
practically.
mean, to be fair, the Norse do have a shit ton of like minor gods. It's just they're not talked about much, at least not nearly as much as like Thor, Odin, and all those ones.
Yeah. Hang on, Egyptian god of war. Montu
Hmm.
is the Egyptian god of war. So I'm very curious. Like, I think is that right? Wait, hang on. Set. No, it's Set. Sorry.
Oh.
So it'll be interesting. Yeah, because I was like, what the hell? I don't know why it told me that. Stupid Google. Set. That's a really big actually god. So it'll be interesting if they perceive him as like as a good or bad god, because you know he could go the Ares route and be like a piece of shit that Atreus has to stop, not like be friends with. Who knows how it's going to be?
Yeah.
I'd imagine. I think just he's usually not bad. I think the one that you probably will rely on as like an ally would be Horus. Out of all the gods, like Horus seems always like the god that will help out somebody, but who knows how it's all going to go. Otherwise, I never get fan fictiony, not fanfic, but you know, like I never get into the game relationships besides like Uncharted, but Uncharted's more of like a family thing. It felt like family the whole time, but like the way I feel, James, is Atreus is going to do his own thing, and then either he'll come back to the Norseland or they're going to come to him, and it's going to be like Kratos, Freya, and get this, James. I think Atreus's little sister, who would be the third protagonist who would get in the franchise, potentially.
That could be interesting.
Because, all right, I know I really ship those two together. I'm just gonna say right now. Apparently, also Freya's voice actress also ships them. She's like, I really want them to be like. She's like, they need to be together. And really, Kratos technically owes her a child, does he not?
Yeah.
You owe me a new kid. But like I definitely see like they could really turn God of War into a full family aspect type game at a certain point, especially just because it's like a family of warriors. Um and the game starts, you know, it started off with Kratos, but it could become like a franchise of this like dynasty, this family that it goes through. Kind of like Castlevania, but much more like much more contained and like fully like naturally evolving through time, depending on how many games they want to go through. I think they could definitely do that, because also imagine having like a female God of War at a certain point that you play as if she gets older, if they did have a kid and it was a girl, because I guarantee you it would be a girl, it wouldn't be a boy. Just because they'd be like, oh, we could, any chance to make like a female protagonist, it's like a complete powerhouse, like you can definitely bet that it would be female.
Ooh, you know, the Indian pantheon might be kind of cool though, because I mean, I don't know the specific god of war, but like Shiva's the god of death. That'd be cool to check
I
out.
love how I'm saying all this stuff and you're like, listen, dude, any God.
I was just like, no, you're thinking, you're making me think of like what other like prominently like
Didn't it show the
strong female
Japanese
gods
one
are.
at a certain
I think
point?
they did mention Japan.
Japanese one, and then there's also the Aztec and Mayan ones, which I really don't
Yeah.
want to see the Aztec gods get killed at the same time.
They don't have to kill the gods.
They're gonna kill, bro. They're gonna kill the gods.
Eh.
And I always cracked up because people would joke and be like, "When is he gonna go after Jesus?"
Holy, oh my god.
Hey man, don't do that. Oh jeez. I was gonna
That
be
would
like, "Oh
be
Jesus,
so funny if he
dude."
did go up against a religion that's like, there is only one god, and that is me.
It's like, fuck. Well, I guess there's just one enemy. I don't know what to
Eh.
do here. But yeah, dude, I think we'll go to Egypt. I think there's a chance we could get a full God of War family. I'm hoping for it. I don't care what people. I just want that to happen. I got invested too much, guys. I got too deep in it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Daniel sent me a meme that was like a comic someone made of Thor Love and Thunder, and it's just like you can't kill me, Gord. Like, I know I can't, but
But he
he
can,
can,
and it's
and
Kratos.
it's Kratos.
That's actually really good. But all right, guys, I think that's everything for God of War Ragnarok. I knew this was gonna be a long episode, and honestly, it's not as long as we've had other episodes where it's like, oh, let's do
Yeah.
like a Marvel show and a movie, and it's like almost 3 hours. So this is still shorter technically. Um, but that has been
If you can't tell, we love this game. Go play it.
yeah. If you could play one game this year, honestly, like I realize it's like, if you could play one game before you die, which one would it be? And I'm like, okay, it would not be a fucking like massive Assassin's Creed game. It wouldn't be a service game or a multiplayer game. It would definitely be a story game because I want a game where I'd finish it and feel like completed instead of like, if I play Destiny and it's like, I did it, or get ready for the next expansion, but I'm dead. And it's just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, like it definitely like I like that God of War Ragnarok feels like a complete experience. Like
yeah.
nothing got chopped off for DLC later. If they added something in a year or something, I'd be happy. But
Yeah.
it's just
Considering Horizons is coming year after its release.
like it doesn't feel like there's anything missing to this
No,
experience.
not at all, which is fantastic. But yeah, great game, fantastic game, a masterwork game. I loved it, and yeah, go play
Yeah.
it. Go play it. Just go play it. It's so freaking good.
You don't even
Uh,
necessarily need to play the first game because it has a
Play the
recap at the
first game.
beginning.
No, play the
But
first
play
game.
the first game though.
Play the first game. Play 2018, not the other ones. You skip the other ones. Just play 2018. This one, it'd be great.
Like I think you can play most of them on PlayStation Plus,
But
but
yeah, you
like
don't need to.
you don't have to. You
Just
don't
play
have to.
2018. You'll get the idea. Just watch like a hey God of War in a nutshell 5-minute video or something.
Yeah, that'd
Uh,
probably be fine.
Yeah. But that has been Sutro Side Talk. You can, of course, like I said, email us at sutrosidetalk@gmail.com. It's in the show notes. You can send us feedback, comments, or questions. Like I said, we got Callisto Protocol next week and Avatar Way of Water the week after. So if anything, questions you want us to answer on it, or your thoughts on those that game and movie, let us know. Also, for our 2022 in review, let us know your top games, films, television, anime, and also let us know what you're looking forward to for 2023, and we'll read it up on the show. Definitely. Otherwise, you can follow the show at Sutro Side Talk on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. You can follow James on Twitter at InvaderJam124, and you can follow me on Twitter at GoGoComzilla. If you want to help us out, please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to or watching. If it's Apple Podcasts, give us a 5-star review. Spotify, please rate us. And if it's YouTube, give us a like besides subscribing. All those things would really help us out, considering we don't ask for money or anything. And yeah, I believe that's it. We will catch you all next week. So long.
Thanks for listening.